Bobby, but yeah, I couldn't make it. I had to go into the city. A good party. Don't miss it. Next time around. What else we got?
Well, maybe we can fit in an administrative item.
Okay. Yep. 5 minutes here.
This, I believe, I think I copied the commission on an email. There's pictures on both sides of that.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
In the course of my driving on Haverhill Street, coming to the office one morning, before it snowed, I noticed there was this large, solid white object off in the woods to where I happen to know is Commonwealth of Massachusetts property under the custody and care of the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and also that I believe was one of the 2 certified vernal pools that are located on that property that are within sightline distance of Haverhill Street. On stopping and investigating by staying on state property, I discovered that it was a very large white tarp that had been put in the midst of this freshwater marsh. And I went to the nearest single-family residence that was near there, which turned out to be the residence of Mr. Booth, who told me that the tarp wasn't his, but he happened to know and have seen that his neighbor just to the west, Mr. Holland, had been spraying the tarp out there. I went to Mr. Holland's residence and missed him by a few minutes. I only know that because shortly after I returned to the office, after taking the pictures that you see, he came to the office to speak to me about what might have been my reason for stopping by his residence. And he admitted that he had placed the tarp out there for the purposes of creating an area for ice skating for his children. I asked him if he knew that was property of the Commonwealth and not his property. He said he knew it wasn't his property, but he didn't know exactly who its property it was. And then I told him the environmentally sensitive nature of the area, and that it would probably be a good idea for him to retrieve his tarp and get it back to his residence. He offered to do that, said that would have been taken care of by the weekend, but I guess weather conditions and the fact that the water that was on the tarp from the snow and rain had frozen, making the tarp heavy to move, so it actually didn't get accomplished until this morning. I noticed it was gone, so he must have done it yesterday afternoon in terms of moving it off the property. I made a courtesy professional phone call to the offices of DCR over at Bradley Palmer State Forest, I think it is, where they have their Northeast District offices, or the offices that oversee the forests and their state parkland here, and just left a message to let them know what was up. Haven't heard anything, so. But anyway, I believe the situation is resolved in a satisfactory manner.
Brent's suggestion, and I concurred, was that there didn't seem to need to be any paperwork associated with it. It got taken care of.
No, just look it up in the email for the site visit type thing.
Okay, well, that's good. I suppose the giant white tarp in the woods is one way to be sure to attract attention to whatever you're doing.
When it hasn't snowed yet, yes. If it had already snowed, of course it would have
One
been.
snowfall, you never would have known the difference.
Yeah. Never would have caught my eye.
Right, well, that brings us to 7:45. So this is
Yeah, I'll
the
get you the line.
first matter on the agenda, 7:45 item.
Do you have your ad from the newspaper? Requested you bring in the tear sheet?
So,
This is a legal notice of the Raleigh Conservation Commission in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Laws 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Raleigh Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A public meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 4, 2012 at 7:45 p.m. Room 5, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability application filed by Ronald Jenkins for proposed construction of exterior stairway with landing from walkway possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, all at 58 Pleasant Street, map 24, parcel 93, Raleigh. And you must be Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
If you want to come forward and
Mr.
Show
Jenkins
us
does
what
not
you
have
have.
his newspaper tear sheet. That will have to be submitted to become
Yep.
part of the public record.
Okay,
you got that someplace? Because
Yeah.
we have to have it before we can finish
I
this.
can run back at the house and grab it. And,
You just about could, that's right. If you want to do that, we'll be here for another couple of hours, so, not right now, let's finish up the
Okay.
hearing, but bring it back tonight and then you'll have it taken care of.
Just pay the bill.
Yeah, there you go, so now you know you have it. Okay, so Brent, is there a memo on this? There is. Have you seen this memo? Did you
No,
get a
for
copy?
some reason, his internet service provider rejected my email.
Oh, no, it happened. There's a correction. I just switched over to Comcast as
Oh,
of
okay.
Saturday.
Well, why don't you take a look at that? Those are Brent's written comments on your application, and we'll all take a look at it also, and I'm just gonna read yours since he's got my copy. Did you see the back? There's two sides.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess the only question I would have is, does it look like you're going to need to get equipment in there, other than handheld equipment?
No, just handheld.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that sounds like we're just a matter of getting the erosion controls in place and making sure they're properly installed and then removed properly. And the only other thing I would direct your attention to is about the bittersweet. That's great, because you want to get it out of there, but be attentive to the fact that you don't spray it. That's not-
Yes,
That's
yeah,
not how it
Frank was
works.
told me.
Yeah. To the extent it works if you put it on the cut,
Right. Brush it.
onto the cut stems.
Yeah.
And then, am I right in remembering you have to do it in the next year also?
Well,
Sometimes
this is
anyway.
not knotweed,
Right.
bittersweet, so I
Maybe
think
not, yeah.
I think it's got a less prolific root system, and so I think just, during a time of year when it's growing, so that it, probably just before it buds out or something,
Mhm.
maybe when it's just starting to
Yep.
pull stuff down into its root system. Um,
Does pull up pretty easily.
Pardon me?
Pulls up pretty easily.
Yeah, and not sure that we would want this to occur though, because it's right in the delineated wetlands and the intermittent stream from where the culvert discharges.
Is there much of it?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a
Quite a
lot.
bit.
I think it killed the cherry tree that was growing
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
actually. I think it
Yeah.
overwhelmed it and killed that. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Smothered it,
And
so.
there's that other, what was it? Thorn bush in there too. isn't it?
Well, you've got some multiflora rose too, which can just be pulled, that's.
Yeah, from brazen enough.
If you're, yeah, right. Heavy gloves.
Well, usually,
Lots of
yeah,
protection.
usually down low, it doesn't have as many thorns actually where the. where
It
it's
doesn't
just
mean it doesn't come
down.
around and get you.
No.
Even
Yeah.
while you're doing that.
Right. Judicious pruning before one goes to try and muck along with it.
Right.
And this, I may not be able to get to it this fall for that bittersweet.
Right,
That might be.
yeah, this is a
spring.
3-year permit.
Okay.
Yep. It's tricky though, because
I like it.
you're right, you want to get it when it's in the spring, when it's starting to take up its,
Yeah, because right
Nutrients.
now, nothing you put on it would be
Right.
conducted down into the root
but
system.
you don't want to
into
do
the
it
root
when the
system.
stream starts to flow.
Right.
It'd be better
Yeah.
if you didn't anyway.
Mhm.
So, there'd hopefully be a moment like that.
Cut it off.
Yeah.
Now, without any problems.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a little easier to cut now than it is in the spring.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Any comments by the other commissioners or questions? Seems like a pretty straight ahead project.
Yeah, it's just the proximity to
Right.
the very minimal no cut, no disturb, which, is actually the wetlands in the stream channel.
Yeah.
So
What's the
it's
stream back?
tight quarters.
What's the stream is that?
That's-
It isn't. It's,
A no-named intermittent stream?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah.
It dries up. It's right now it's dry.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments by you, Brent? Anything else you want to add? All right, in that case, I would need a motion to, I think it's, motion to close the hearing and issue a negative determination, option number 3, with the conditions stated in the memorandum. So I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And all against? And the motion carries.
Yeah.
All set.
So, yeah, my, it's not Verizon, it's Comcast. It's the same thing.
I understand,
Okay.
but you changed since the
Yeah, I
information you
know.
put on your application, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a
I
problem.
had no way of knowing that.
So you need 8 copies, 10 copies?
No, no.
Just-
No, you just need the tear sheet
Oh, okay,
from the newspaper ad, so that we've
Okay.
got proof that it was published.
okay.
It's what they send you, when you get it.
The actual page, they send you a page of the newspaper, you should have gotten a plain brown envelope with
Mhm.
Right, just bring that by,
Okay.
and that's the only other thing you need. If you do that tonight, just, yeah, I mean, we'll still be here, so
Okay.
just, bring it in, hand it to us.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Cupcakes, they look great. Do you make
Happy
them?
holidays, no, I didn't make them.
Right, they look real professional.
I may make the copy so I can have this ready.
Wait a second. 133, this is 1, I mean, the 1A. 1A north, I guess this one. So this is the same street that's at dead ends, I think. I don't think it has any connection.
Intended for the property.
Yeah, it's the
Nothing
actual
rules.
corner.
This is the pancake.
There's no outlet.
Peters out almost.
Yeah, just out into the, over there. A client or a friend or somebody who lived maybe 5 houses further and they paid their property tax bills to both towns. And part of
We got
Wetland
involved with where it curves around this way to some property up here 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then at least one of those houses we did use there also for septic.
All right, this is the 8 o'clock item on the agenda. This is a legal notice of the Raleigh Conservation Commission, in accordance with Wetlands Protection Act, General Laws 131, Section 40 is amended in the town of Raleigh. Wetlands Protection Bylaw, a public meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 4, 2012, at 8 p.m. at Room 5, Town Hall Annex, 39 Central Street, to consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Three Palms Group LLC for proposed soil evaluations and construction of a replacement sewage disposal system, possibly within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands at 5 Prospect Street in Raleigh, Mass., map 15, parcel 80.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Right.
Unfortunately, my engineer's running late, so I
Okay.
wasn't really prepared to meet in front of
Who
the
are you?
board. I'm Mark Trudavilla, the
Okay,
project
you're
manager for
the
Three
person who
Palms
signed
Group.
it. Okay.
Do you
Yeah.
have the tear sheet from the newspaper for the publication of that?
Doug would have that,
Okay.
and he's running late.
He's coming.
So, yeah, he is coming,
If
so.
if you want us to hold it, it makes no difference to us. We have other things we can do.
Why don't we do that
Would-
until he gets
would you
here?
rather?
All right,
Okay.
yeah, I could call him and just,
Yep.
find out where he is. I mean, I was just coming really,
'Cause we-
just to meet everybody and be here in case the questions
Sure.
came up. that I
But
needed
probably
to
the
answer.
questions we're gonna have, if any, are gonna be better answered by him anyway.
I'm
right?
sure, so it's
Okay.
kind of
All
like,
right,
all right, but,
so we'll just suspend this for the moment,
okay.
till later in
great.
the evening,
Okay.
and give me a wave when he walks in. I'll
I
probably
will,
notice.
I'm gonna
but-
step outside and call him now.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
This goes with that.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's see, yeah, a little early, who are we expecting here on the rest of these? Is somebody coming from,
Well, Ms. Giblin
oh, you're Miss
From-
Goodwin, okay,
from Marine Biological
you're the last
Labs is
thing,
here.
yep.
And
But-
Frank Peruski called me,
Yeah.
he's sick, so he will not be
He will not be
attending,
here.
will not
Okay.
be representing the National Wildlife Refuge.
Right, so Ms. Giblin, as far as you know, you're the only person that's coming on this? And
Yeah.
it's just a discussion item, so it doesn't have a legal notice, so we can do that now, correct, Brent? No reason we couldn't.
Certainly,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, why don't you come
Great.
forward, and that way we'll get you out of here, which would be nice for you.
The commissioners were distributed the letter of November 26th.
So we don't get anything mixed up here. I can just, okay, great.
Distributed.
Hi, how are you? And your name is?
Ann Giblin.
Ann Giblin, okay.
Marine Biological Labs.
Right.
So what happened was about a year ago,
Yeah.
I put up a tower in the Fish and Wildlife Refuge for monitoring carbon dioxide fluxes, and I got a permit from them. And I assumed, I think obviously incorrectly, that that was the only permit that was required.
Yeah.
Last spring, we were thinking we'd like to put up a second tower. We were looking at several sites, one of which involved town property. So I contacted Brent to get a permit to put up that tower, and he informed me I needed a permit for the Fish and Wildlife Tower. So I went back to the Fish and Wildlife and said, I need a letter from you so I can get a permit from the town.
Yeah.
And I guess it started a long discussion
A bit of an
between,
exchange of
Right.
views.
where they didn't feel that, that any permit from you was required.
Right.
I think as of yesterday, in talking to Frank, where we stood was, Frank does not want to push the point on this particular tower, so I'd like to just go ahead and get a permit
Sure.
from the town. The permit that was in the marsh itself has been taken down for the winter and moved into an area which would still require a permit, but it's on a little mineral island
A little
in the
upland
refuge.
kind of thing,
Um,
okay.
So,
Well, I'm not sure there's anything that's upland out there, but
uh,
in terms of not a jurisdictional
It's- it's
resource
got a
area or
No.
buffer zone.
no,
But
it's
it's,
clearly an area that you have jurisdiction over.
It's
I'm-
under, it's
I'm
under
not-
less water.
I'm not
Yeah.
doubting
Yeah.
that, but it's, this is the spot right there, is where the tower is now. These are pictures, although I will say we had to put an extension on it, it's a little bit higher now. That's what it looks like. And it also has solar panels, which are sort of on the back side here.
Oh, I see, okay. So is this the one that was moved?
This
or
is the one that's now up.
It's
The
now
one that
up,
was moved
okay.
is
All right.
this one here, which was located here.
Okay.
And that one looks like this, but this one we took down for the winter. As you can imagine, this is some fairly expensive equipment into the solar panels for that. And that's what it looked like at high tide. So we took this down because I can't risk the ice taking it out.
Sure.
This is what it looks like, this is what that tower looks like from the road, out of Stackyard Road. So this tower is about 7 meters tall, this
Uh-huh.
one is about 11 and a half. So what I'd like to do is just go ahead and work with Brent to get
Mm-hmm.
this tower permitted. Brent and I talked about whether or not there was any way that we could maybe have some sort of way to permit 2 towers with some flexibility in the location, that they
Right.
were moved pending his approval, but maybe
Yeah.
not requiring a whole notice of
Right,
intent over
and
again.
I thought that sounded like a good idea, if there's a way to write it. And a lot of the conditions are gonna be identical regardless of where you put it. You know, like what we need to protect, the pathway in and that, erosion control issue. Those are gonna be the same for almost any location, so it seems like it would make sense.
Right. The two main things here would be to file an application that identifies, who is perceived to be the property owners that might be involved with the location. And I put forth the idea that the substantial acreage out there is really, I think, under three ownerships that I know of.
Mhm.
The Park Service, the National Wildlife Refuge, Greenbelt, and Mass Audubon in that area. Now, there also was specifically the town parcel, so we could throw the town on there because there's already been permission given by the Board of Selectmen for the siting of some of these facilities on town property. So hopefully, identifying those 3 property owners and just getting a statement from Greenbelt and Audubon, I think, are the only ones who haven't weighed in about having
Right.
an installation put on their property, that hopefully that would give you, the ecosystem center, enough flexibility in being able to find parts out there and just avoid there are some small private parcels out there.
Right,
And just avoid those.
Right, right. And we can, it seems to me that, assuming we grant the permit, we can write it in a way that just says, when a site is chosen, there'd be consultation with the agent to,
Yeah, we
You know,
receive
consider-
notification and then perform a perfunctory review to see if there's any unique characteristics to the particular siting
Right,
of this
yeah.
installation that
Mhm.
might warrant something different than what's spelled out in just the general conditions. I mean, we sort of did the same thing with the proposal by the National Wildlife Refuge to engage invasive species control with their spraying of the pepperweed. when we identified multiple locations under multiple ownerships, notified the property owners, and then had the wildlife refuge just submit their specifications for the chemicals that they were going to use, and just put in place a couple of general conditions to just, make sure that all eventualities were covered with it. And I think, I don't see why the same thing. Now, the only tricky thing is notification of abutters, but,
Can we do
When
that
you-
each time? I mean, I have no problem with that.
well, I was just gonna say, we may not have to really worry about that, because the notification of abutters is for properties that are within 100 feet of where the project is going to occur. In most cases, so far, everything that you've pointed out on the parcel there is thousands of feet, if not yards, away from any other
Yeah.
private domicile or even an inhabited or
Also,
seasonally
the-
inhabited structure out there. So-
Also, the permit is going to mention all of the possible abutters as possible locations, because even if you have an abutter, it's going to be one of the other.
More than
property
likely,
owners,
again, though
almost
there are
certainly,
some
yeah.
private,
Yeah.
there are some private properties
But if you
out
stay
there.
100 feet away from them, then you don't have a
Yeah.
problem. So, and there's a lot of marsh
Yeah,
out there, so
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
chances
you
are
can
we
have-
would. I mean, one of the
Yeah.
things that happened with the other towers, and the reason
Yeah.
we put up this winter tower here is that once you get up all the equipment, it's the vertical wind field that really matters, and that's, without the really fancy equipment, we really don't know what that is.
Mhm.
Place looks great, but then you
Yeah.
put the instrument up and it's not.
It's not getting what you need.
So-
Yeah.
We could also consider as a potential requirement that there be a general notification, an introductory letter that could be, we could require to be sent to, if there is a nearby private property that might have a viewscape and might see this, we could just request
Yep.
as a condition
Good idea.
that an introductory letter be sent to them, just explaining that the installation is research and who it is that has it. And that's kind of a good neighbor type thing,
Sure.
especially where you have a landscape that is so flat and uniform that all of a sudden something like this, might catch a person's eye, and then that.
But the few private landowners that are out there tend to be pretty amenable to this sort of thing, at least that's been our experience with them.
Mostly, we only meet the clambers, and they save us when our boat breaks down.
You're all in the same
All the same
business,
boat.
basically. Sometimes all in the same boat.
I have a couple of things I'd like to note. There's the problem of, moving these things around and getting to them without damaging the land, and I think we need to be part of the review process of that, because one of these recent situations damaged the land on the way carrying chemicals out to them or something. I don't know if it was specifically this one or one of the other ones that we recently considered, and whether a walkway or some sort of matting.
Well,
would have been
specific, yeah,
appropriate.
and.
So I don't think we can just give carte blanche to, go ahead and move these things around the marshes as you wish.
Which is why I suggested that if after crafting the conditions that we do put in place, which would talk about access, and if there was repetitive access, just exactly like we used with the tidal experiment that was carried out on the mudflats of the Rowley River,
Like
where
DU.
we requested the use of temporary planks
That's right.
so that repetitive foot traffic did not overly compact the tidal mudflats. And again, we can talk the same thing, but that's also why I suggested that when a location is chosen, not only are we informed of it, but it gives us an opportunity to conduct an office review. Again, if there's any unique characteristics that the conditions that are put in place might not possibly address, so that those things can be reviewed each time a location is
Yeah.
chosen.
I
and-
mean, these things aren't easy to move, so
Right.
I'm not gonna be moving them.
Right, yeah, it's not like every other
It's a
week.
seasonal
Yeah.
sort of thing. We put it up for 4 months and we say, okay, next year we're not gonna put it back there. Or we will put it back
My
there.
other reservation doesn't have to do with this, because they don't have any reservations on what's been said, but I think it needs to be clear with regard to the wildlife refuge and any other party that new experiments and new applications need to come before us for review.
So that's where this all got caught, and I think they didn't want this resolved in this case. I
Well,
think they
I-
want to live to fight
I-
another day.
I'm saying for the benefit of the folks at home, hopefully Mr. Drzezinski, that it does have to come before us as a matter of law unless he's able to prove otherwise, and so far he hasn't been able to do that. And I don't mean to be overly contentious about this because we have a history of being supportive of these kind of applications and facilitative. And I would expect that to continue, but I don't think we can just be ignored or on the basis of some inconvenience to the wildlife refuge.
I had a phone conversation with Mr. Dragutski this morning and reiterated to him the need to have a conversation, to have communication, which was actually pointed out in the document that he provided to us early on, the Category X rider to the National Environmental Policy Act that he provided, specifically said about communications with the local authorities and discussing research projects. And I reiterated to him that we wanted to enhance, if not increase, the ability to talk back and forth about these efforts and to examine the specifics for whatever was involved, so that a decision could be made appropriately, instead of just speculating that somehow this was going to cast a wide net and drag every single research project or activity that might be engaged in.
All right, so you're gonna file an application along these lines.
Correct.
And then we'll act on that. It seems like you've already had some conversations with Brent about how that might look. and-
Right,
and you should keep doing
we
that.
sort of started the process,
Good.
and then it
Great.
got
Yeah,
slightly caught in a disagreement.
Velcro.
You don't want to be between the feds and the local government.
yes.
Great,
Okay.
Or to make matters worse, the state too.
that's correct.
Yes. Okay, so
Great.
great, thank you for coming
Great.
in.
Well, thank you very
I think
much.
we're all on the same page here, and we'll see you pretty soon.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you. And did the earlier gentleman bring by his,
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
Back in. But just before.
No, I mean,
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Jenkins
Jenkins.
came in and I gave him
I
this
thought I
permit,
saw him come
and
in.
he gave us the
great,
tear sheet,
okay, so we're all set.
that
So,
was the
okay,
best.
so now this is gonna be the 8 o'clock item that we started and then suspended because the engineer was a little late, and that would be you, sir, right?
Yes,
Mr.
Doug
Okay,
Smith
so
is my
you're-
name.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
I
Smith, could you
apologize.
hold on just?
Yep.
Does the commission wish to take any action in regards to the discussion that just occurred in regards to marine biological labs and the National Wildlife Refuge Service, or do you want to just consider the matter at this point in time until the commission's letter is actually responded to at that point in time?
You mean by National Wildlife?
Yes.
Yeah, my sense is I don't think we're gonna get a response from them on that. So,
So I just wanted to check and make sure that unless we receive a response, we should consider the matter closed upon application coming in from Marine Biological Labs.
that's the way I would feel,
Okay,
unless there's a disagreement.
I just wanted to, okay.
All right.
So now
All
we'll
right,
get
now,
back.
pardon me for jumping the gun a bit. So this is a resumption of the 8 o'clock item for an RDA for 5 Prospect Street, 3 Palm Street LLC, and you are
Doug Smith.
Doug Smith, okay.
Soil Smith Designs. I have the newspaper article.
That's him.
We need the tear sheet.
That's all we've got.
Okay.
Is it a photocopy of the tear sheet?
Well, it's a
Okay.
photocopy which doesn't show the date that it was published or,
It was, they did not provide me with anything yesterday, we called and they gave us this.
oh, okay, then that's fine. It's fine. They normally mail a page of paper.
Yeah, I was sort of expecting that when they
Piece of actual newsprint. That's what
Yes.
they usually do. What was the Daily News?
the Newbury Report.
Newburyport Daily News. Huh.
That's okay.
Somebody
this,
different,
work with this.
yeah. Okay,
I'll call the person with the parrot cage advertising next to it and just ask them what day that ran.
pretty one way. Could also call the Daily News and say, are you guys gonna start
going
sending
on?
out photocopies? Because if you are, at least include the date in the photocopy, because that's kind of, I mean, I don't care if it's a photocopy or not, but it does, it should have the date on it. All right,
Okay, so this property is about a third of an acre, and it had an existing septic system that failed the Title V inspection, so they needed a brand new septic. And that's what got me started on this property and this project. And of course, before we can dig test pits, we have to come through here to do the wetlands. So I mapped out the wetlands, and Brett did check that, and he was okay with the wetland line, which comes up here. There's a whole series of flags. There's a small culvert, and
it's pretty much the whole lot, right?
yeah, the wetland is all on this side.
Right, but
And
it's all jurisdictional in the sense, yeah.
yes, the
okay.
100-foot buffer is up here.
Yep,
The 50-foot buffer is
right,
this line right here.
yep.
So, yes, the whole thing is in the jurisdiction. I have an area that a septic could go right in here, which would be out of the 50, providing we get good test pits in a park. That's what I want to do. As far as the house, a deck was revamped, and it does have a fence that goes around. And when Brent did a site check with me, he did want some more erosion control put in than one was there. There was a silt fence in place as this line goes, and we ended up putting wattles in, coming all the way around the shed, all the way up to take any kind of disturbance this direction and protect the wetland, and also around the front where the work for the septic will be going. So 125 linear feet of wattles went in the very next day after Brent went out there. And there was a couple piles of debris in the back, which got cleaned up, and I have some pictures of that. We took 3 large bags to a facility, got rid of all that. So, it's my belief at this point that everything is in order from the site check, I'm hoping, and I know an effort was made to do it very rapidly. Within the very next day and the following day, I believe everything got finished, including putting some stone around a sump pump discharge. Used to go into the wetland itself from previous owners of the property, and now that's been fixed, it's been cut off, and it's going into a stone situation.
Okay. That's this comment here, right?
That's correct,
To wash
yes.
stone.
Yeah.
Okay. Brent, what are your thoughts? You don't have a memo, right?
No, do not have a memo because of the complications and implications of this particular filing. First off, I was approached at some point in time for sign off on the deck. The deck was an in-kind replacement, and so I signed off on that with the caveat reading from the regulations that erosion control needed to be put in place, and that's apparently what instigated the installation of the silt fence. Needs to be noted, though, that installation of erosion control is supposed to be an effective installation, not a ineffectual, non-functional, incapable of stopping any sediment transport installation of erosion control, nor was it ever discussed with me that it would be put basically on the wetlands line. But it was totally ineffective, and therefore, I don't believe that the installation of the silt fence should even be acknowledged because it was improper. Number two, a fence was constructed. A fence was constructed within the jurisdictional 100-foot buffer zone of this commission, and it was never divulged to me at the time that there was a discussion about the deck, nor was permitting or any type of input to our office in regards to whether that activity needed to be permitted or any criteria that should possibly apply to it. So activity took place on this lot when the other thing that should be noted in this picture at the bottom here, if that can be circulated, where your thumb is, Mr. Chairman, that's all bare soil, bare dirt. Absolutely no vegetative cover, no leaf litter, no mulching. The 3 bags of material that ended up being
Where is that?
contained in bag.
Oh, it's this,
Well, the location of the photograph is this whole yard area here.
okay.
So the fence was installed
I see.
4 to 5 feet at its closest off of the delineated bordering vegetated wetlands line, which there is an intermittent stream or flow path in here that responds to drainage, which can be seen wherever the aerial photo is. You can see it quite clearly. But all the cover, apparently, this lot must have been pretty well shaded. It's hard to tell because our photographs are taken when the deciduous trees don't have any leaves on them. So, but apparently there was no ground cover here. It was mostly leaf litter. That's what ended up being bagged, and the reason that was bagged was because it was transported to the rear of the detached shed, which is shown on the plan, and which is located approximately at its closest point, 20 inches from the delineated edge of bordering vegetated wetlands, which just comes real close to the rear corner. But that's also where all the debris was dumped, which was leaf litter mixed with dirt and everything else, to the point when I also examined it, there's a photograph here somewhere, right here, that shows cut dimensional lumber that was buried and covered up by this material that was dumped right on the edge of the wetlands.
So it was pre-fill.
Well, it was improper disposal of both man-made debris and also material that was cleared from the lot. Yes, that was finally removed, but that was actually the second time that it was requested. When it originally was noticed that it was dumped, I requested that all the dirt mixed with the leaves be removed and the pure leaf litter be redistributed over the area. And instead, all the dirt and stuff was just spread out. It was spread actually further into the bordering vegetated wetlands. And then, upon getting a notice of violation, the responsible parties finally removed it. So, returning to talk about what the application is before the commission. The application is both to perform soil evaluations, and it was also requested that it be included the actual installation of an appropriately designed replacement sewage disposal system, under the premise that all those activities were going to take place in the known spot on the property. And so even though the commission's normal way of handling these things is to permit the soil evaluations first, and then subsequently entertain a second application for the actual installation of the sewage disposal system. In most other instances, that's because the location may possibly not be the same as where the soil evaluations are performed, although that's usually when there's greater variability and greater availability of land to consider siting a system. Since this lot had unique characteristics and really the only spot appeared to be the area of this now enclosed yard that is adjacent to Haverhill Street and also at the corner with Prospect Street. And so I said, fine, we'll have to have a discussion with the commission because I don't know exactly whether the commission would be amenable to both activities as well as how we would require the submittal of the final approved design plans. Because irrespective of knowing where the activity is going to take place, and given the fact that usually the only thing we're conditioning is erosion control, we still like to have a record of what ends up being the actual construction activity or the specifics of the disturbance that takes place in the regulated buffer zone.
Well, we don't have a design for the septic system yet, right?
That's-
Because you-
that's
you
correct.
can't have
So
done
I
one.
did, right?
Yeah,
That's correct, but
we know the location.
we know the location, and I figured, we could have a discussion, about whether just a condition requiring the submittal of the approved plans, depicting appropriate erosion control, and then our usual inspection of the installed erosion control. But then all these other things started happening on this site. And so I leave it up. That's why I didn't write a memo, because I hadn't had an opportunity to discuss with the commission, whether they want to see our normal two applications, one for soil evaluations and one for the sewage disposal system, or how you felt about just the activities that already have occurred on this property in regards to whether it would be comfortable to, I didn't know how to tell the applicant to proceed, and so therefore,
When was the fence put up?
I have to ask them, I don't know.
Mark would.
The fence was put up approximately a month ago with the approval of the historical commission and the building inspector. We went in front of the historical board because we do follow the historical district, and they approved the fence, the design, location. I had no idea there was wetlands there, so obviously I wouldn't have ignored this board, but I was ignorant of it, really.
That means 3 applications, not 2.
And the deck was replaced in like size,
Right, right.
it was,
So you
Well, I
got,
signed off on the deck on October 24th.
correct.
When did you get a permit for the fence?
I went in front of the historical commission.
I think you said about a month.
record
that'd
when
be about a month ago.
she signed off on it.
I know the first time I saw the property, the fence was not there, and then when I went back to do the wetland work, it was.
That was on 11/1, Brent?
Well, then, I'm sorry, I'm going to interject a contrary opinion because you and I had a conversation on October 24th about the fact that the deck was in the jurisdictional 100-foot buffer zone and how that it needed to have erosion control if it was attached to a single-family residence but 50 feet or more away from jurisdictional wetlands, so.
Right, I did put the
So-
sill fence up, Brent, I'm sorry.
Right, so
Maybe
you
it
and I
wasn't
did
done
have a
properly.
conversation that this property was in the 100-foot buffer zone and subject to jurisdiction of the commission prior to you getting approval from the historic commission.
so you got a building permit for the fence? Permit from the building inspector for the fence?
For the deck,
For the deck, but not the fence?
not for the fence, no.
Because I don't know
But he
how you
was
would get the-
notified of the fence being installed, so.
Yeah, but he shouldn't,
That's probably a bad way to look at it, but in the long run, it would be good that this fence will be a buffer, a protective from the wetland area as far as anyone going from one side. I mean, it's obviously wasn't supposed to happen this way, but now that it is there, could we look at it as it being a good thing? Is that, one way to look at it possibly.
It is. Commissioners, comments?
It's the only way to look at it right now. It exists.
I don't know, to get back to the question you raised, I don't know how I feel about putting the two parts of the project together into a single application. I feel like essentially I'm in a position of approving a septic system that I've never seen. So I understand where it's going to be, and there are probably some real constraints on what it could possibly look like because of the site. But still, we haven't seen it, so we don't know where the disturbance is going to be, we don't know what it's going to look like, we don't know what design it's going to be in terms of how it functions. And normally we know all those things and they affect our decision. Now, obviously, this is a replacement of a failed system, or not? It must be.
Correct, yes.
So we, our inclination is going to be to approve something, but we might very well want to approve something a little different than what we first see from you. And I don't even know how to speculate about that because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
That's my feeling about putting them together. We certainly, I don't think we've ever done it that I can remember doing.
Well, there could be issues of runoff. Again, it isn't within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission to necessarily affect design considerations, but the activity of excavation,
Well, that's
the
what-
activity of grading, mounding that may be involved can have different impacts on runoff and can possibly result in concerns about stormwater or, just the changing grading and the steepness of slopes involved.
Right.
So there are,
Especially on a really constrained lot like this.
I think there should be.
Yeah, I mean, until I know what the water table is and
Right.
perk rate and things, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna require a retaining wall, a poly barrier.
Right.
It's just, everything's, I'd be guessing right now if I tried to.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot
So
of
what I-
components that we haven't seen yet.
And I don't want you to guess. and that's not-
No, I mean,
That's not reasonable.
our main goal is we would love the permission to start digging, to do the test pit.
Do the test pits,
Through
well,
the
but-
Board of Health, and
Yeah.
then I'll come up with the best point I can possibly fit
That's-
in there, and then,
That's not an issue. I don't think we have any problem with you doing that. You need to get some kind of a septic system in there to make it a functional property.
and then if I do the testing and get it drawn up, they probably would not be able to start the system until another meeting when you
Right.
get to see the
You know,
proposed plan and Board of Health's
that-
comments and all that.
That would be my feeling. I'm just one member though. I don't know what other members feel.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, and I think,
How are you gonna get your equipment in there with the fence?
well, there's an 8-foot gate right here. Yeah, right up here. So a backhoe can get in, and when the system gets built, a little, might have to get removed right in the corner,
Right.
just to.
Is this the gate you're talking about? Or is that another gate?
no, that goes to
Yeah,
the
that's,
back.
that's the back.
Okay.
The other one, I think it's 2 doors, isn't it,
Yeah,
Mark?
it's an 8-foot gate.
Yeah, I measured it, it was 8 feet, which the backhoe can be.
You'd have to get a
Wherever the
back- small
picture is
backhoe.
with the
Right.
sump pump drain that goes to the rear of the residence.
Well,
How many test pits do you think you're gonna do?
they usually require 2, but if we find it's uniform, we might get away with 1, but most likely it will be 2 test pits.
Okay.
2 test pits and 1 perk. And,
Well,
Okay.
that's my thought, is I don't have any problem with approving the test pits.
Okay.
The sooner the better, then the sooner you can get a design to us.
okay.
But I think we do need to see you again, unless I hear something different from other commissioners. Any sense of disagreement?
I agree.
All right.
Could I continue to the next meeting as a tentative, hoping that I'd get the testing done and get my plan put together? That way we
gotta-
got the ball rolling.
Procedurally,
We can't. You
It's
haven't
gonna be
issued
a
a permit to do the soil
Right,
evaluation.
right, it's gonna be a
Okay.
separate application.
Okay, all
So
right.
the deadlines are what they are.
I see.
I don't know if you can get that all done and get us in before our next meeting, but I
I see.
don't know if that's possible.
It's 2 weeks.
January
January
2nd,
2.
2013. There's plenty of time.
That's right. This is the one time of year we don't have a meeting of the third week, because it would be Christmas Day, I think,
Okay.
something like that.
All right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
it's
how
a
it
week
lands
Later
this
than it
year.
would be normally.
Right, so we skip a
Our
week.
submittal date, I think, is technically December 16th, I think, or something.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so
you
there
actually,
is-
you have a little bit more time than you usually
Than
would.
normal, okay.
Yeah,
Normally
we-
the 2-week thing would be tough.
And we
Okay.
don't, our agendas aren't so full that we could not put you on.
Okay.
Put you on for any week you want to, you can meet the deadlines for.
Okay.
But I think that's
As
gonna be
long
how
as
we
we
need
had
to
the
do it.
application by the 17th, that would.
Right.
Okay. And as far as we asking Board of Health, do they have to get something in writing from you first, or how does it work for me to set in?
I would concentrate on seeing if you can convince the commission to issue you a permit for the soil evaluations at this
Yes,
point in
that's,
time.
that's what I'm,
Yes, well, my feeling is that would be fine,
Okay.
unless commissioners feel otherwise. And then coordinating with the Board of Health, you're gonna have to do that for your test pit and your perk and all
Right.
that, so you can work with them.
Okay.
But, yeah. Okay.
Does the commission wish to require, I've heard one commissioner, Commissioner Turner, mention that he feels there should be permitting for the fence.
I would be willing to have that joined with the test pit
How about
application.
after the fact permitting? I haven't
Yes.
evaluated, I would suggest after the fact permitting with the system.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's, I think that's probably what you meant. So, in the next application, what you're going to be asking us to do is approve a septic design
okay,
and retroactively, if you will, a fence.
okay,
And then we will evaluate both of those things.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have all the information you need on the fence. It's on
Yeah,
this
it's all
plan.
been shot with the trams and
Yeah,
heights and
so that-
distances, exact location, yeah.
Right, but put that in the application so that we can act on it.
Lineal feet and everything else.
Okay, so I would need
Well, let
to
me,
do this, where are we procedurally? Or is there something?
Well,
else you want?
procedurally, again, because I didn't craft a memo because of the various combinations and permutations that this has possibly come out with, may I suggest the following. For the activity of soil evaluations, suggest the following conditions be adopted in response to a negative determination of applicability. Number one, the Raleigh Conservation Commission and its agents shall have the right to enter and inspect the property at any time for compliance with these conditions in the Town of Raleigh's Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Number two, an appropriately sized spill containment kit or materials for spill cleanup in parentheses shall be available on site at all times while equipment is on site. Number three, temporary erosion control shall be installed, and I think, is it now depicted on, do you have a revised set of plans that shows the straw wattle?
Yes,
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 it's on
this
here.
does, yeah.
That needs to be submitted to
Yes.
us, so it can become part of our record. So
Okay.
therefore, temporary erosion control shall be installed as depicted on the revised plans in order to prevent erosion and sediment transport into undisturbed areas or onto abutting property. Inspection of the erosion control by the RCC/staff prior to excavation, and all disturbed areas of soil shall be properly loamed and seeded to reestablish vegetative cover. The erosion control shall be properly maintained until final stabilization of the disturbed areas by vegetation is accomplished. And finally, the last condition, the RCC office shall be notified on completion of the soil evaluations.
I imagine you can dig the hole and fill it in a single day with any
Yes.
luck.
Yeah,
So just, as long as we pick a day that it's not pouring down rain, shouldn't be much of an erosion
Well,
problem.
the erosion control's already in place.
And it's already in
this
place
particular
anyway, but
situation, so.
you're gonna minimize it anyway.
okay.
Okay, so those would be the conditions of the permit. I would take it none of those are objectionable to you and your client? Okay. So I would need a motion to
Issue
issue a negative determination with the stated conditions.
conditions.
And do I have that motion to allow the test pits?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All against? Right, so you're all set.
Okay.
And if possible, we'll see you in
4 weeks.
No,
January 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our next meeting. If you can't get it done by then, January, it then goes on a 3-week
All right.
process, January 23rd.
We
Is the
try,
second
we'll do
or-
everything we can to
Second is a
get
Tuesday,
it done
right?
then.
I don't have a window cut off.
You can keep this one in your file if you want. It shows the erosion. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
I'll have the permit available for pickup by tomorrow. If you want that, either that or on the, So which you want me to do?
I can pick it up.
The original with their signatures is, can either be in the office and be picked up,
Yes.
or it can be mailed.
Do you want
I
to
can
pick
pick
it
it
up?
up, but I'm local in Topsfield.
Okay, all right.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, is my calendar incorrect?
Yeah, it's actually a Wednesday.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
That's why I was hesitating. I thought I had noticed that January 2nd is a Wednesday. Is
Correct.
that correct? Because the 1st is a
Yep,
Tuesday.
according to our
We aren't
schedule.
gonna meet on New Year's Day.
Yep.
We're allowed to. If we're allowed to, we don't want to.
It's a holiday.
Yes, so, but the 23rd is back. 23rd goes back to Tuesday, and then we stick
Yes.
with Tuesdays. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry.
No,
Pardon?
it's Wednesday.
Brent, 23rd is a Wednesday.
Now, what are we talking about now?
Well,
23rd of what?
January.
January.
22nd is
Right, the next meeting, but one is the 22nd, not the 23rd.
That's what our schedule says, January 22nd.
22nd, yeah. It's just that on
No,
the
no,
agenda,
just a,
it's 23rd.
Okay, cool.
That's where I got mixed up.
Yeah, I think it got mistyped.
Yeah, okay, just so we all know.
Yeah, because
Mainly
she
all of
corrected
us,
it, she corrected
All of
it
you
today.
people too. You show up here on January 23rd, you'll find
Nothing.
no, you may find somebody here, but it won't be us.
Dark room or
Or the, I don't know, Council on Aging or something, I mean, who knows? But they won't be able to act on anything we have. All right, so that brings us to the 8:15 item, which is a continued review of the proposed conservation restriction for 237 Dodge Road, map 9, parcel 21, which is residences at Rowley Country Club LLC, owned by Windover Properties LLC.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Jill Mann, here on behalf of the residents of Carriage Pines LLC, as well as the Rowley Golf LLC, which will be the actual grantor of the conservation restriction. Here with me is Rich Williams from Williams and Sparag, the site design engineer. What we have done is actually prepared and revised the updated CR based on your comments. And if I may, I'm just gonna quickly go over the comments that Mr. Berzak had sent to us, and then also that a couple of the commissioners had sent to us. And what we did was we brought, and we do have extra plans to leave with you, the large size plans as well as, did you get? Can't go in, maybe, I have asked you to share if I may, because I don't, oh, sorry. Brandon, we have a big plan behind you. What we did was we prepared additional plans based on the comments that we had received. Essentially, we needed to put a legend on the plan. We needed to better identify the, certain of the areas, like there was areas just labeled G and dirt and stuff, and we actually refined that legend. In addition to that, we were asked to show the actual possible envelope for the expansion of the club, and we did that on these plans. We also did take into account your request. One of the requests was, can you at least tell us that you're gonna attempt to handle any kind of fertilization, pesticide application in a manner that's going to be more sensitive to the environment. So what we did was we did put in an actual statement within the body of the conservation restriction that did attend to that, and said that we will make, we'll do it to the extent practicable. And I did speak to Bert Page, who is the person who runs the golf course, and he's willing to try and do as much as he can. You have to be careful with certain types of fertilizers for golf courses, because clearly at times you need fast growth because of the type of use it is and the type of activity that's occasionally there. So we did address those issues. In addition, we did address the issue with regard to estoppel. We changed that to 30 days. We restricted the planting of anything other than native species and actually put in a prohibition against planting anything that would be considered invasive, and then define that a little bit better. In addition, we did provide baseline photos, which they're hot off the press. I only made 2 copies because you can see the number, and they're all color copies, so it took forever to print them as it was. So what I thought was, I can give you a copy, and then I'm gonna give a copy to Katrina. Is one enough of that?
I'd have to comment that since I've had no ability to review the document at this point in time, nor consult with the commission, I can't respond to that specific question at this point.
One's
All I'm
enough for-
asking is one document. Okay.
One's enough for now, yeah,
Okay.
one is good.
So,
You can send it
You
in
wouldn't have gotten there
Yeah.
until midnight if you're.
let me tell you, literally.
Yeah, I understand.
So what we did
Printing
then was,
technology is.
is not,
Has
well,
its
especially not in my little color copier. So what I did though is give you color copies as well of the large scale print that we did drop off from Mr. Bazak last week. And that just is the broad scope picture, so now you have the overhead, which is always required when you do these CRs, the overhead, so that you can see exactly what areas are manipulated from the sky, and then we shot the different points which are referred to on the baseline report. We show locations. It actually is I'm gonna email it so that you'll be able to see it in an email format. It's about 13 megabytes, so I'd be careful about opening. Yeah, but you'll see that what we had done was we identified all the locations of the photos, and what Mr. Williams had done was have somebody actually indicate where the photos are, so that it's a better manner in which to determine what the impacts are or what the current improvements are for the plan. Also, some things that were asked, and it was actually asked at the last meeting of the planning board, they asked us, okay, so let's just assume, which is obviously for us the most negative, that the golf course falls into disrepair and for 2 years it's abandoned, and then it actually becomes passive recreation. What happens to the buildings? And my advice was, well, don't require them to be raised, because if you can use it and it's passive recreation and you can do something on it, so be it. So what I put into the conservation restriction, which you'll see, is the ability for the town to maintain and or repair that, provided that the use consistently is for passive recreation. So if you were to put in place some sort of a hiking program, or you have a stream team who likes to come out, or you have some sort of a conservation-minded group that likes to go out and watch birds, whatever, that clubhouse can be used for them to gather, meet, and maybe have a place to put some of their things. So we did that. One of the other things that was asked was, we did change the language with regard to legal and administrative issues, and we had put that into the conservation restriction. And then also, one of the questions, again, with regard to whether, if to the extent that the property were, again, to be used passive recreation, golf were to go away, how do we delineate? We actually put into the CR that we'll put in posts with signs, and we'll locate them along the boundary. And we put that burden on the holder of the restriction. So we will do those types of things, which was, again, what was asked. One of the other...
Could you refer to a page on that point you just
Oh, most certainly.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Not sure I like to hear
Oh,
about
page 7.
burdens on the whole restriction.
Oh, I
No,
didn't
not
mean
wrong.
that, grantee,
It's
grand,
actually-
oh, grand tour,
it's
no,
actually
grand
a
tour is
grand
us.
tour. That's not
That's
us,
why,
yeah.
did I say grantee? I'm sorry, is
No,
it
you
holder?
said holder.
Oh, my fault,
You
it's
meant
grand tour.
Yeah,
I did do it to the grand tour. No,
yeah. Yep, it's on page.
Yes, absolutely.
7.
I wouldn't like it either if I were you.
In the middle.
And then, what I took the liberty of doing was actually preparing, and again, this is clearly draft, That's mine, because I got copies, comments on it. A draft, you're gonna wanna look at that. And then I didn't print out a ton of copies because it's merely a draft. There's nothing in it that is in it that to, I'm sure you're very welcome. So what I done was I just ran through the actual application. It's online. Some of the things, though, that I don't clearly have yet are the permit, which is something that needs to be submitted. In addition, I did speak to the bank because I wanted to know, do I have to pledge this back land? And they said yes, because you know what, we want to be able to have control because the open space parcel is required for the front parcel.
Of course.
So that's why.
Of course, yeah.
So I said,
That
okay,
makes sense.
they understand they need to provide their assent and they need to subordinate to the CR, and that's not an issue. But I can't provide the assent until we get a little bit further down.
Sure.
But I'm working on that, and at least the bank knows and understands what's expected. But I did fill out all of the other information, which you can see, and I described the golf course. I explained what the current improvements are. And I indicate that we will provide all of the attachments. The only attachment that I have yet to provide, attachments that I've yet to provide that are required and will be delivered is the topo map, which Mr. Williams is working on, and then the assent to the mortgaging. Oh, 3 things, because the special permit I can't give you until I get it if the board so chooses to issue it. But I did fill out all of the documentation so that at least you'd have in your file a copy of that. Plus, what I would really like to be able to do is at least get this, out to Irene Delvona over at the EOA. As we talked about before, my inclination is that she's not even going to be able to give it to that intern, that he'll be committed. He lives part-time in France and he's not gonna come home to review our application. But I would love to get in the queue so that as soon as she completes her year-end work and then does her wrap-up in January, she's able to review our conservation restriction and come back to us. So even if the board were to continue to have some form of comment, I would really like to be able to try and send it to her, because no matter what, I have to come back to you with all of her comments, which
Right.
will be many. And I don't know if you have any further things you'd like to discuss?
I do have a few.
Of course,
I think
please.
Brent might, and it sounds like
Please.
Kurt does.
I'd just say in general that, a quick review of this conservation restriction as you redrafted it, looks like it covers most, if not all, of the points of that the commission has made, and I didn't read it this time word for word. However, I'm troubled by the wording on page 9, item 6.3. Last sentence, following such an abandonment, existing cart paths and trails shall be maintained by the grantee. Now, that's us, and I have a problem with that. Again, you put a burden on us that I don't think we need. I'd prefer to have the language read more permissive, that
Maybe.
shall have the option of maintaining.
Oh, of course, that's not a problem at all.
Or you
It
could just say, shall not be maintained by the grantor.
Whichever, I mean, whatever,
I think that's-
I was just trying to give you, to understand that the grantor wouldn't, but I can, I don't know that we should put in, I think maybe we should just say the grantor at that point will no longer be responsible for maintenance, only because I
It's
just
okay
wouldn't want there to
That'd
be
be
that
fine.
issue.
Yeah.
Take that last sentence out of
Good
it.
point, yeah. You could almost take the sentence out.
I could. Okay.
What else you got, Kurt?
That's all.
Yeah, they would always have the option to maintain.
So, Jill, my understanding is that, this is again the scenario where the golf course is abandoned.
Sure.
Is that at that point, the restricted area is going to become open and available to the public basically perpetually.
Oh,
Right.
perpetual,
Okay.
yes.
So that is indeed what it says on page 3, but it seems to me it doesn't say that on page 9. Item 3, the same paragraph we were just looking at.
Oh, because I see it throughout the year, but only during daylight?
Yes.
Perpetual public access.
And it says granted on all cart paths and other trails, so it would seem to limit it to cart paths and daylight hours. I don't think that's your intent.
No.
So I think you either want to take that out or just reword it significantly. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
I just,
right.
right, I think I just need to remove, I think it just has to say is, 24 is, there is hereby granted in the restricted area, as shown on the plans, perpetual public access
Yes,
easement.
Yeah.
yep,
Cross out car
exactly.
passenger.
Yep.
Yep, that's a good comment, okay.
And then back on page 3, just to make it clear too, at the top of page 3, item number 3,
Sure.
if we added the word perpetually
Absolutely.
just before open and available to the public, then I think that would sort of all hang together better that way.
No, that's fine. And I'll do the same thing when I go to the back. Oh, I did put perpetual in there, okay.
And then here's one that I'm either you're way off or I'm way off.
Sure.
Page 7, item 2 at the top,
Yes.
second to last line, item 2. I'm pretty sure you don't mean residential parcel there.
Oh, no, restricted,
Yeah.
restricted area.
Because otherwise we
Yeah.
could tear down all the houses.
Yeah, yeah, no, that, I did, I'm way off, how do you like that?
Yeah. That would be, not that we'd want to do it,
No,
but
could you imagine?
could you imagine? No.
You- So Jill, what were you writing? Well, not, clearly not, yeah,
Yeah, right.
not what I
That's so
intended.
wrong that it probably would be correctable.
It would be, because it only is with regard to
It
the
can't even
restricted
make any
area,
sense,
nonetheless
yeah.
incorrect is,
Yeah.
it should be corrected,
Would be
so I would make
embarrassing.
that, yeah.
And I think we're talking about 24 consecutive months of abandonment here,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
there's a couple of places, that paragraph is one where you say 24 months.
I should probably write consecutive.
Yeah, and also on page 7, same thing. Under C, number 3, 24 consecutive months.
Yep,
It may be in here a couple other times. Those
it
are
is,
the
it's
two I
in
found.
2 or 3 more times.
Yeah, sometimes you get the word consecutive in there, but sometimes not.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't want to be too consistent, no kidding. And then I did change the approvals, Brent, so that I had them, the ones that you had sent to me today.
Oh, the signature page?
Yeah, the signature pages where you actually approved.
That's actually my last comment, and I don't know, you probably do know, is the manager of Grantor the correct signatory for this?
Yes.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. They're the party authorized to execute on behalf of the entity.
Okay.
Probably want to change all those dates to 2013.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, those are my comments. Other than that, I think it's a lot closer to what we would have in mind.
Sure.
Once we get everything internally consistent like that, I think that I, for one, am much more happy with it. Brent, anything you want to add?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to look at the baseline.
Oh, I gotta look,
analysis.
yeah. Well, I actually have to look at all this stuff because I believe the email with what you're looking at today only came in to me yesterday, I believe.
Sure, yeah, I think it might have been today.
So, Ms. Mann, if I could just return to the points in my email, because you were going very fast, and I don't know if I missed it or not.
Absolutely.
So, number 4, when I asked, are all the depicted paths on the plans available for public access when the golf course is closed? Now, I'm not referring to abandonment or closure.
Nope, I understand, during the year.
So,
I can address that.
well, my main question is, yeah, what's your answer and where was that modified or depicted
It
somewhere in the
wouldn't, no,
book?
it's anything it's, public access is only, while the golf course is open, it is only when the golf course is closed, period. At no point in time is there ever access other than that, because you do not assume the risk when you enter the golf course unless you're a
Oh.
player.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're misinterpreting what my question is. On the plans that were submitted to us,
Right,
there are paths shown.
right.
Are those the only paths and trails that are available for when the golf course is closed and not
Yeah.
golfing?
It's the only paths that are out there, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So,
And then you asked about
Well,
the dead
I had-
ends.
and there's some that appear to dead end.
They do.
So therefore, when a person walks to the end there,
They turn around.
they turn around and go back?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, I know.
all right, no, that's, I just wanted to make sure about that.
My guess is truly they'll continue to walk,
Right,
you know.
Onto the neighbors or
but
whatever.
then the golf course police can get them.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
That's right.
if people aren't, you put these rules in place because when there is damage, then you can,
You can start enforcing.
Right.
exactly. But if,
Um,
if people are respectful, they're respectful. I mean.
Right, and I
And it
think,
depends on the type of forest, I mean, if it's thickly overgrown, they're not gonna keep walking. If it's an open understory, they are.
They are,
well, it's
exactly.
mostly the
They're not gonna
fairways
leave
and
it.
it's mostly the fairways and the tees and stuff.
I mean, the
that
thing
we're
where we
talking
really don't
Right.
want people to walk on are obviously the greens.
So in number 5, I asked about how it would be specified about the previously altered areas,
Mhm.
because, which is why I listed a number of things that actually were identified on the plans, and how did you make a modification or whatever, so that I just anticipate in the future, I don't want a bunch of folks sitting around arguing about what previously altered areas meant or means or
I
whatever.
put in a definition of disturbed area.
Okay, and that's on page what?
I think it's
That's-
on page, I have to find it. Okay. It's on page 7.
7,
Yeah.
after the number 2 that we were
Yes,
talking about there?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, good, all right, yeah, there, that'll cut the squabbling.
Sure. Yeah, no, I did try to take all the comments and integrate them, so.
Well, again, I'm just trying to be reasonable and pragmatic here,
No,
not
I agree.
necessarily.
Listen, the less there is up to debate, the better for us.
Okay, and where in this document, number 6, you said there was going to be an attempt about
Yep.
minimization or
If you-
whatever of.
Sure, if you look, it's on page 5 and it's on page
Right.
6.
It's in 2 places.
Because I'd mentioned like fertilizer and herbicide, so I thought just drop it in both and it's identical language. So it basically says the grantor is going to endeavor to ensure the operator of the golf course, because the operator of the golf course is not the grantor, is going to use sound management practices and to the extent practical minimizes the use of the pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. And he will attempt to integrate the use of the organic-based products and low nitrogen fertilizers. I mean, because he's a licensed operator, he can't even use the types and if you will, bad stuff that you can use on your own grass as a private citizen.
Because it's
Because
open to
it's-
the public.
Yep.
Yep. Right.
So it's probably safer to, even though people say don't touch your golf balls and then touch your face, you know, it's probably safer than doing something at home.
Right. Okay, no, that's good.
Do they say that about golf balls?
Yeah, you know, my husband plays a lot of golf, yeah, and they'll,
They do tell
there
you.
are some guys who are just gross and they'll put the golf balls like in their mouth and stuff, and he's like, okay, if you're a real golfer, you don't do that.
Yeah. Not if you're out there a lot. I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, I would, trust me, I wouldn't either. I had the same reaction, I go, what?
Thank you.
So then I guess I would ask, would it be acceptable if after Brent completes his review of the CR, the base report, and the plans, if then we were able to simply send that to Ms. DeBorno so that she can have, at least put us in queue?
I don't see why not.
I don't see why not.
It's gonna
yeah.
sit in her desk, as you say, for a
We-
while.
we-
If we come up with any, you know,
Oh, she'll
further
take your
thoughts,
changes
she'll
at
take our
any
change-
point.
Exactly.
Well, let me
It's a
just,
process.
Yeah.
let me just mention one thing here now. Our process in the town
Right.
is
I
that
was just gonna say this.
upon the Conservation Commission getting to a point where they're comfortable with the documents submitted and the wording, et cetera, we then, the next step, and this would be before conservation approval, we need to request the ability from the Board of Selectmen to have town council review it. Instead of waiting for it to go from the Conservation Commission to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen who would necessarily ask town council to review it. We usually try to speed up the process. We don't have the ability to engage the services of town council without the permission or authorization, I should say, of the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
So I don't know whether you would like to have us get to the point where we then make that request to the selectmen and it goes to town council before you send
I
the
think we-
version to Irene?
I think it'd be better for you if it went to Irene first, because what would happen is her comments could be quite extensive, and then, in good faith, you would have to ask your town council to look at it
Right.
again.
Again,
So that.
Yeah, I was
why
gonna say,
you would have
both of
to
them
s-
review the document.
You would
yeah.
not wanna spend money twice.
yeah, and
I-
town
after
council
she-
is not gonna make as many changes as Irene is.
Oh, I
I think
bet,
that's-
once Irene looks at them, I would
Right.
bet that she would make almost none.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes sense. So, based on that, also do keep in mind that this is, we're just essentially offering our expertise to planning here.
Sure.
We're not, this is a discussion, not a application as such.
Oh, we
So-
understand.
So I don't see any impediment at all to you sending this to Irene at whatever point you think it's ready to go. As long as you sense from us that we're largely satisfied and planning is largely satisfied.
Right, and I'm gonna speak with Katrina about it and make sure that I can at least, send it out to Irene, because basically planning has said, okay, we don't review these, we'd rather the Conservation
Exactly.
Commission
Right.
give their feedback and,
Right.
Right, well, we do perform the function of the municipal certification. part
Yeah,
of
because
it,
there is a
And a
certification.
recommendation to the
Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen,
Correct.
so.
One thing that troubles me about this whole process, and I don't know if there's anything can be done about it, but once a state person makes her recommended changes, it seems to me you don't have any recourse from that that's meaningful if you don't like or disagree with that, so.
You know what, I have to tell you, she is really responsive, so she'll make comments that you just don't wanna do, it's like, she'll put some stuff in that just, people go, are you kidding, you can't do it, you just can't do it, and you go back and you explain why, and she's pretty receptive, because we had a long conversation, I think,
I referred you to her.
right
early
after
on in
you
the
and I
process, so.
spoke, I immediately called her, and she was fantastic to talk to. I mean, I was, even from a developer standpoint, she was wonderful to talk to. She was very accommodating. She sent me examples and she said, look, we'll work together to produce a good final version.
Yeah.
So I'm not,
She's
initially I
a
thought- I felt
resource
like
and
you
an
did too.
asset in the process.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, number one. Did you say she has an administrative assistant that
Oh my gosh.
does the work on this?
He's a retired partner from Ropes and Gray.
Well,
So-
part of the problem in these, if I may interrupt, in these kinds of situations is that the comments are apt to come from them, and depending on whether she rubber stamps her helps work, which some people do as a matter of course and policy and practice, and other people make the changes, but if she's got somebody with that kind of muscle behind her, then chances are you're looking at his stuff rather than hers.
I believe that 100%. Unless he's not around, then she will do it, but then that will mean we won't see comments back till February, March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments by commissioners? Brent, anything else you think you want to add?
think so,
Okay,
Brent.
good.
Got more to look at.
Got a little more to look at.
Brent, these are 2 copies like you asked for, so that you can, do you want another full copy or color copy, or are you set with what Katrina gave you?
I'm set with
You set with all
the
this?
one that
Okay.
got right at the moment.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, we appreciate
Okay.
your time.
Thank you.
And have a great holiday, we'll see you.
Lots of hard work in this, Jill. Thank you. Good job.
Very welcome, thank you.
She's generally a good person. Didn't mean no small pleasure to catch that one. Because that was not it.
Administratively, do we want to continue this?
What's that?
Administratively, do we want to continue this?
I guess so.
I think that
you know,
would be good, so if we get to the point at the next meeting, it would be on the agenda, and
Okay,
if
yeah.
we want to then make a specific request to the selectmen
Mm-hmm.
for the possibility of
Yep, yep.
getting it reviewed by
Right.
town council. I mean, I don't know whether it would have
I
been
don't-
back by that or not, or whether we'll just be in a holding.
Yeah, we may
pattern for a
find
while.
ourselves continuing it and continuing it,
Yeah.
continuing it, but that's okay. No big deal. Yeah, so I need a motion to continue the discussion, the further discussion of, or review, I think review is the right word.
Review.
A proposed conservation restriction for 237 Dodge Road to January 2nd, 2013. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? And the motion carries. Good.
Mr. Chairman, the assembled parties are here for 54 Haverhill Street.
Okay.
So you might want to take that agenda item,
54, here we go.
840.
and we can do 708 Haverhill Street later.
But that's the busing one.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do the 840 item, which is enforcement order 54 Haverhill Street, map 15, parcels 87-2 and 88. Howard P. Schmidt, altering by cutting of vegetation and placement of fill, a minimum of 6,000 square feet of 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, and an intermittent stream failure to comply with an issued order of conditions, 63-515. So, what's that?
Which is 54.
This is the former Lopes property?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yep. So who is here? We have Mary Brimmer, I recognize Mary, and
I'm Jack Rivers, and I've been, Mr. Schmidt is a very close friend of mine, and I've been involved. I'm a retired, or semi-retired real estate developer. I've been before the commission before, and dealing on this particular property through the perfection, while Lopes still owned it, and Mr. Schmidt was in the process of purchasing.
okay.
And also, Mr. Schmidt's son is here, Howie Schmidt.
Okay.
Mr. Rivers also contacted me about the violation, asked me to get involved, and I've been retained by the family
You
to
have, okay,
try to address the enforcement order.
thank you. So Brent, if you could just briefly bring the commission up to date on, I think this all, more or less all transpired since our last meeting, so I know you and I have had several conversations about it, but I don't know that the other commissioners are familiar. And then we'll hear from you folks.
On November 19th, the office received a complaint about activity that was perceived as the placement of fill in a stream channel, and therefore the alteration of wetlands. And so therefore I was asked to investigate, whereupon I went to the area of Haverhill Street that was broadly referred to me, and could see from the street that there was a substantial amount of grading, and that there was a lot of vegetation missing from the last time that I had entered onto the property, which I think was in 2006 or 2007, for the permitting process, as well as involvement with Mr. Lopes when he removed auto parts from the intermittent stream and wetlands that was off the rear corner of the dwelling there. I proceeded to the front door of the side door of the dwelling, which appeared to be the major egress and entrance to the dwelling. Knocked, was unable to raise anybody. I could see from standing there on the side, I could see both the tractor, and behind the tractor, substantial areas of disturbed dirt and signs of recent grading and shaping activity. I also could see directly behind me where the water department property is, that where the municipal property has an old abandoned electric substation on it. I could see directly behind that there was signs of disturbance and mounded what appeared to be loam or topsoil in that area, which I knew to be property owned by the town of Rowley and under the custody and care of the water department. Not being able to raise anybody in the property and having a file which indicated that we had a permit on this property which allowed the commission and their staff to enter, I proceeded to the side rear of the property and saw extensive loaming and seeding, measured distance from the house, which according to the final approved plans indicated where the start of a no-cut, no-disturbance area should be, and observed the fact that there was all disturbed soil recently spread with grass seed, and in some cases spread with possibly hay mulch, and that extended for a distance of approximately 325 feet, paralleling the stream channel towards the rear of the property. And what I could only estimate, because there was no remaining wetlands flagging that I could see, I observed that what there appeared to be man-made debris as well as other loose, recently graded dirt and soil that was appeared to me to be in the intermittent stream channel and in area of bordering vegetated wetlands adjacent to the stream channel. And therefore you have before you photographs that I took during the visit, as well as I've copied the commission on the issued order of condition, the issued enforcement order for the commission's consideration this evening. Want me to- But I believe we have the involvement of both impacted no-cut, no-disturbance area, impacted buffer zone, two bordering vegetated wetlands, the possibility of impacted bordering vegetated wetlands by the placement of fill, and the possibility of interruption or disruption to the intermittent stream's flow path by the placement of fill and man-made debris.
Okay. Mary, would
Sure,
you?
I can add to that a little bit, just,
Yeah.
I did have an opportunity to take a look at the site as well yesterday, and did observe activity that had definitely had occurred recently either within a resource or at least within the buffer zone. I was able to find a few nubs of old flags right at the edge of the material. And it's my understanding that this material had been pushed with the tractor that's on site towards the stream in an attempt to do some grading and grading and improvement of the property without, obviously without the proper permits, and so the family understands that that should have happened now at this point. My recommendation to address this at this point is to, one, to get the erosion control barrier in place that's at the limit of the filling that has occurred. I didn't observe any directly in the stream, but it's close to it. And that has started, the siltation fence has been begun to be installed as of today.
That's correct. We picked up, or had 3 rolls of silt fence picked up and delivered to the site. And the first roll of that, we have this afternoon gone in and at the edge, at the limit of the infraction where the fill goes to, we have established the silt fence. And with a spade at the bottom of the silt fence, and then tucking under and tamping down the vegetation is the method that we use to seal it off.
You mean the fabric?
The fabric, I'm sorry, yes, to tuck the fabric under so it is sealed off at that point. we were able to accomplish just under 100 feet of it, and by hand removed what loose materials had been placed in, and there is a considerable amount of material that needs to be removed, and I don't disagree with any of the statements made about what the infraction is. I would like to apologize for the infraction on behalf of Mr. Schmidt, and I do have responsibility to some extent because I evidently did not impress upon him the significance. I did tell and try to. I failed in that, and for that I apologize. We are available to do everything that we possibly can do to remedy the situation as quickly and as safely, and however the commission determines it should be done with the assistance of Ms. Rimmer, and I guess that's all that we can do. I have also, I'm in the process of retaining the services of PJF and Associates, the engineer or the surveyor, who will come in and just as soon as I can drag them into there, which will be very soon, and stake out the location of the wetland flags and the original wetland flags, and so reproduce those. And at that point, the attempt was to salvage with the setting of the silt fence was to protect the balance of whatever is left in its natural state. There is a pile of loam that is on the intermittent stream side of the silt fence that was too large for us to tackle without, it was inefficient to do it then, this afternoon, so I got a tarp and placed it over that, so that if we do get any rain event, then that should protect it in the very short term. I guess we're looking for your direction.
Sure, what I would propose that we do is provide you with a sequence of restoration, and starting with completion of the erosion control barrier, staking out of the original wetland boundary that was approved in 2000 and, I forgot now what the date was of the original approved, 7 or so. It's on.
I think it was 2007.
And as well to
April
stake
3rd,
out,
2008.
as well to stake out
2008.
the 35-foot no disturb zone from that wetland boundary, so it's clear in the field where that occurred, where that is during construction, and then to present a sequence for removal of the remainder of the material that was pushed towards the wetland edge and restoration. Obviously, any vegetative restoration is not going to happen until the spring, but there's some winter stabilization measures that could be employed until then. So.
I did look at the intermittent stream, the path, and I don't believe that the actual, although there are areas where you would spread out with the stream, but the flow would still effectively go in the channel, except in a heavy event, it would go out and into the illegal materials that were placed in, that were pushed in.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask, first of all, this office wasn't contacted about the placement of the erosion controls. May I ask why the decision was made to utilize silt fence?
I saw it as an emergency thing. In the enforcement order, I thought that we were on page 3, didn't I see?
I believe what you saw should have been, we'll look at page 3, so.
It says immediately install appropriate erosion controls.
Appropriate erosion control. The reason I'm asking why you're using silt fence is
Oh.
because with silt fence, you're cutting the root systems and you're disturbing further soil. I would think a more appropriate method to use would be the installation of straw wattle.
Well,
In this
I had
situation,
recommended
both
that.
because you can pull the fill back as well as you can reposition, but I think the vegetation has been so negatively impacted there, I would be hesitant to recommend an activity where you cut with a spade and further sever root systems and disrupt the plant community that's already been severely negatively impacted in that area, as well as the fact that most of the fill was very loose and unconsolidated. And so when you pull back that material, you would be able to appropriately reposition the straw wattle to take advantage
Yeah,
of the parts
I think
of
you
the resource area that haven't been
I think
disturbed.
Mr. Rivers
That
tried to
was
get
my
the straw
original-
walls first, and they weren't immediately available, so the quickest fix was to get the siltation fence, and I had recommended that to him. But I think that also can be put in with minimal damage to any root structure. It's being put in by hand spade, and there's not a lot of vegetation, frankly, in the area that has
Yeah.
been put in right now anyway. So I think, the important thing was to get it in quickly and continue with that. If you want to try to, if we should stop and, take a look at it in the morning or something and let us know if there should be something else other than what's being done,
That might be a
that'd be
good idea.
fine.
It was my intention, although seeking input from the commission, it was my intention to be there tomorrow, but if we're talking about whatever means that we need, we're available to do it immediately. That's
The other thing is that the straw wattles typically are only 12 inches in diameter, and so they only provide that height of sediment control, whereas siltation fence is 2.5 feet, so you get a little more protection.
But we're supposed to be talking about the removal of fill, not the mounding of fill.
Oh, well, I'm just saying, if there's movement of fill, if there's movement during a storm, then
Right.
Siltation
Just
fence is
the-
gonna be-
you're gonna have
Yeah.
more protection with the siltation fence.
Doesn't anybody use salt marsh hay anymore? Bales?
You can too, if
yeah.
if the ground is a little bit uneven there, I mean, the fill material is not exactly pristine.
Well,
You can
anyway,
see it in
so,
this picture.
You should have seen it
So
the first
Pretty
time around.
irregular.
It's-
Mm,
Just, yeah, anything
Lot
else you
worse.
wanted to add, Brent?
well, yes, that first off, any activities on the site, because this is an enforcement matter, should be done with clear communications with the office so that we know what's going on, so that we, can provide some input to, again, try to minimize the amount of disturbance that is going on here. It's nice to correct the situation, but I'm really hesitant to utilize methods that are possibly, having a detrimental impact in themselves and, disturbing more surface area, especially near the possibility of flowing water. I realize there's no water in the intermittent stream channel at this point in time, so it's speculation, but I can tell you that there is erodible, unconsolidated material as well as man-made debris that could be instantly transported and can spread to further wetland resource areas, both across the road as well as on the abutting property at this point in time. I do concur, and there was a recommendation that a restoration plan be submitted by December 30th. That certainly should have survey for reestablishment of both where the delineated wetland boundary was for BBW, as well as for where the delineation was proposed to be for the no cut, no disturb, so that we can direct the restoration activities to only occur in areas that need to be restored. As well as to quantify what the impacts are, because right now, the estimate of 6,000 feet could be an extremely conservative figure for the amount of disturbance that has occurred there. As well as the fact that then we've had the ability to review the plan and the future activities. And immediately, I believe all the man-made debris can be moved out of the area without
You know, I think if,
Without any
Brent, if it
concern.
fits your schedule, getting out there with, is it Mr. Rivers?
Mr. Rivers,
Mr.
Jack Rivers, yes.
Yeah, as soon as possible to do a real inspection, because you were limited in what you could see.
Right.
And start working together on that. Tomorrow morning would be fine if it fits for you. But on behalf of the commission, we certainly appreciate your response and your approach to this of there's a problem that needs to be solved. I can't help just wondering what the heck he was thinking, because this wasn't that long ago, and I recall, and I know other commissioners recall, making it pretty clear what the rules were here. I don't know how it could have been confused. I really don't. So I mean, I don't expect a response out of you, but it kind of amazes me. If this was 10 years ago, if there had been changes in ownership since then, I could see extenuating circumstances. I don't see any extenuating circumstances here.
It was my intention to come up as soon as I could. I did have a doctor's appointment in Boston this morning, and I got tied up all morning, and that was the first opportunity. I'm sorry I didn't contact you. I know better than that. I should have. But I'll make myself available around your schedule.
Well, again, the context here is to facilitate this. It's not to provide an impediment to you. If it's anything, it's to make sure that the actions you take are efficient, are proper, and are directed to achieving restoration. Because, again, it's not meant to hamstring or provide any type of throttle to what's going on here. But if anything, it's meant that we can take efficient action in what's going to be done there, so that there would be the least amount of duplicates or repetitive
I think
actions.
that ultimately there will need to be some equipment use in this area to get this material out.
Looking at those pictures, I would think so.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of material. He just, wow.
There is small equipment though that can pull. That can pull stuff back.
Well,
the Kubota tractor that's sitting on the site is good for pushing stuff in, but we need equipment that needs to pull stuff out and pull it back. So
my thought for the appropriate equipment would be a small excavator that can pull this with somebody down below directing, so that we can skim off without damaging the underlying soils, and then do the balance by hand, so we can take the bulk of it off. It is a relatively clearly defined banking as you get out near the road, as you know, and that has not been where the steepest part of it is concerned, has not been
the side and the rear corner of the house seem to be where.
Yes,
at this
the side
point
and
in
the
time,
that's
where the closest proximity of filling to where
down,
the water flows appears to be.
Right.
And then down further, and as you go down further, whatever, there's some, I don't know, looks like some appliances or something in there. Railroad ties.
Yeah, there's tires, there's all sorts of stuff.
Tires.
But again, debris removal, pulling back as much of the unconsolidated fill to trying to find whatever the original surface contours were, putting erosion control in, doing the survey work and coming up with a restoration plan, and then whatever stabilization, mulching, or whatever we can do now, and then coming back in the springtime and looking at replanting and any of that that needs to be undertaken, as well as putting in some type of protective barrier
Yeah.
no cut, no
Right.
disturbance
These-
zone, either posts with
slabs.
signs or talking about the possibility of a fence being installed to provide a permanent barrier to keep activities from intruding into the
Might
no
be a
cut,
good
no
idea.
disturb.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think December 30th is a realistic timeframe for you, Mary?
Well,
To have a
it's
restoration
not any
plan?
mystery what needs to happen as far as the,
Yeah.
the construction sequence.
Yeah,
and
it's the
it's
question
been
of getting
done
the
similar
surveyors
projects.
and
It's
doing
whether or
that.
not the survey and the,
Yeah.
the execution part.
That's kind of why I'm
Will take
asking.
longer, yeah.
And we have a holiday period
Right.
upon us. I find
Right.
it hard to
I
schedule.
mean, if
things
it's,
this
if it's
time of
all
year.
right with the board, I mean, I'm happy to work directly with Brent in getting the sequence agreed to so that they can begin to do that work. And then
Okay.
if a restoration plan, a planting plan or something, maybe we can present at a meeting following the stabilization of the site.
Okay. That's kind of what I was getting at, is I think we don't need the restoration plan as much as we just need to get the work started,
Get it going,
get
right?
it going.
But we're trying to put those dates out there. There's
So that there's
right
some
now, so there's
benchmarks
something
work
to,
from.
to,
Yeah.
to shoot for,
Yep.
and of course, the commission, even after ratification of the enforcement order, can amend, to work
Right.
with whatever ends up
Right.
being the realistic timeframe. If there's a problem getting the surveyors out, or sometimes the problem's not getting them to do the field work, sometimes the problem is getting them to produce the results of their field work.
Right. Yeah, and the holidays are here, so they're going to be days off. People are not going to be available for getting stuff like that done.
It's gonna be,
Right.
there's gonna be some still time.
Okay,
But that's also a good date to shoot for getting things,
yes.
getting the debris removed and getting erosion control in and doing whatever mulching.
The December
The
30th?
December 30th, that's,
Yeah,
I
well,
think still.
our next meeting's January 2nd. Why don't we put it on for January 2nd for sort of an update on those issues, without necessarily the expectation of any restoration plan or anything like that by that date, but construction sequence, a sequence of work,
Yeah.
and a report on the progress of that work.
Okay.
I think our expectation would be that the trash and so forth would be removed by then. That seems realistic.
Yeah, the erosion control should be all
Erosion
in.
control would all be in place and satisfactory by then, and hopefully most of the,
Most of the stabilization may possibly be able to be done by then.
Depend-
It all depends on whether we get a soaking rain that then freezes instantaneously.
Right, it could be
Depends on
stable,
that.
it could be stable
That will
period.
make,
and also
that'll make movements fill more difficult.
well, right, and you can't.
Freeze and everything is in good shape for a while, but as soon as it thaws, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's not a Tuesday, by the way, it's a Wednesday.
Yes, January 2nd is a
Oh, good.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Tuesday is a busy day for me.
Okay, the next one after that is a Tuesday, and all the ones after that are
Yes.
Tuesday, so.
I have a question or two.
Yep.
Just refreshing my historical memory. As I recall, this was quite a large parcel, it goes back into the woods and was originally proposed to be divided into two.
Into three. Oh,
Um,
but the
Well,
house
these-
in two lots.
Two new
Right.
ones with the existing as the third,
Now,
yeah.
Those, what happened to those two lots? Are they still owned by Mr. Schmidt, or are they?
Yes, it is still actually the one parcel, and the permits for the division have not yet been perfected. So it's still in the process of
Well, there was some trail roads going back in and around those. Has any work clearing been done back in there?
Uh,
We
no,
walked back there and that
No,
was
we
okay.
walked through Mary and I walked through the entire site, and thankfully, the only areas that have been disturbed are those that we've talked about, and as Brett had said, there was some disturbance over on the water department property as well.
As I've driven past there in the last month or two, I thought things looked a lot cleaner and clearer than they used to be.
More
Now I
open,
know why.
more open.
Yes, a little
Yeah.
too open.
He was putting in a lawn, and thank God he left the bulk of the larger trees, and whatever replication or whatever we need to do for brush or however the no-touch zone, that runs.
Shrubs and saplings.
Right.
So,
At least you're
There
not
was one tree cut, at least one that I saw.
one tree cut, you
It
say?
looks like a white pine right
Yeah.
on the bank there.
I saw- I think I saw a stump.
that was a fully dead tree,
Yeah.
and
And if it wasn't before, it certainly is now.
it certainly is right. So there is you do have a stump there, is right.
I thought I saw a stump in one of the pictures.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah, there
just
was one, but that was about the extent of it, so it's mostly just smaller shrubs.
Fortunately, he didn't have access to a
Do a
chainsaw.
large
and,
chainsaw.
so,
Okay. All right, so, anything else you want to add?
No, but the request is for the commission to consider a vote to
Yes,
ratify
we do
and
need to do
confirm
that.
the issuance of the enforcement order.
So, we'll do that, or at least we'll have a vote on that, and then I would anticipate continuing it for further review on January 2nd. So we need to deal with it. That's it.
Yeah, more than likely, we're heading towards crafting a directive that will incorporate
Correct.
the restoration
But
plan.
we'll just all kind of work together
Yep.
on this. And Brent, you, Mary, if you think you need to be there, we'll get out to the site as soon as schedules permit to get a real good look at it and see what you see and make sure that you're on the same page as them.
The enforcement order says, acknowledge in writing your intent to comply with the enforcement order. Do you need something from Mr. Schmidt specifically?
That's a recommend. I've inserted that ever since I had a sit-down session with the enforcement chief at DEP Northeast Regional Office, so it would be good
Okay,
to get something.
just a letter from him.
sure, yeah.
All right, so I need, first of all, a motion to ratify and confirm, is that the phrase? Ratify and confirm the enforcement order. Is there a motion?
Yeah, the November 26th.
November 26th enforcement order. Moved by Mr. Turner, second?
Second.
This side.
I think we've already got a positive vote.
Mr. Gardner.
All in favor?
Aye.
And against, and the motion carries. I think we probably also want a motion to continue this for a status report to meeting of January 2nd, 2013. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The motion carries, and I think that does it.
Okay.
Thank you both for coming. I appreciate it. Glad to have you to work with.
Great.
Is there a time tomorrow you want to meet on the site, Mr. Rose?
I'm available as soon as possible.
So what time tomorrow would you like to meet?
I can be there 9 o'clock.
I'll see you at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay. Would you take my cell phone number down? That I have it with me.
If you would be so kind as to,
Okay, sure.
and if you have an email address, if you could provide that.
Will do.
I won't be available at that time, but if you.
I'm sorry?
I won't be available at that time, but let me know if there's anything.
Okay.
I need to respond to.
cell phone, email. Okay.
Okay.
And I'd give you my fax number, but I forgot it.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've had a fax. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
I appreciate the tolerance.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Appreciate you coming in.
Evening.
Good evening.
We need a big issue of it. Was he at the meeting with Mr. Schmidt?
I thought so, and you know,
I thought so.
yeah.
You know, someone moved forward with a damn tractor. He's gonna wanna use it a bit too, which is why we really
That's what,
get hard on
you
it.
said that when we were in the office last week, and you looked at the pictures.
I just-
And it kind of comes back to me, I do remember this a little bit.
Oh, I definitely do.
Yeah, it wasn't like it just was brushed over, it was sort of emphasized.
No, he wasn't gonna do it.
Just to share with the commission, not only are there apparently family health issues, but Mr. Schmidt's son, who is here in the back of the room, shared with me that his father is suffering from some mild dementia, so.
Ah, not surprised.
So that's what he was thinking, yeah. Pardon me, I can't sit in front of those cupcakes any longer.
And he should give access
Go
to a
ahead, everybody
tractor.
else should do this too, so I'm not alone. Wait.
Well, the next item specifically on the agenda, while the chairman is consuming a delicious chocolate frosted
I
cupcake.
can read it.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't.
It's the 8:30 item, new request for partial certificate of compliance for 708 Haverhill Street, subdivision lot 3, map 5, parcel 8, lot 2, James Bussing, owned by Stacy L. Bussing. This is a lot I think we are all pretty familiar with.
Well, the well's right next to it, right?
Yep.
Interesting. Interesting.
Good thing we imposed the salt restriction, huh?
Wouldn't be my place to put a well, but, you know.
It's the only place I could.
It's all wetland, I doubt that.
Well,
Yeah, you
It
know.
shouldn't be too hard to find water there.
Exactly.
It's hard to find.
I'm sure they had to go deep. but,
It's-
That's probably why they did it next to the stream, or as close to the stream as possible.
It don't go so deep.
No, bedrock would be deeper, potentially. You know, so there'd be less drilling of bedrock, and it's gonna be less money.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay, that makes sense.
Great color photographs, wow.
Brent?
Well, the review of this partial certificate of compliance request initially produced a rather lengthy memorandum in regards to various things that needed to be attended to. I did attach, Mr. Bussing came and visited me today at approximately, I think it was like 2 or 3 PM or so. Came in with revised plans as well as to tell me that he'd addressed all the on-the-ground issues that I had identified. And so I think the commission should see attached to my initial memo, a subsequent follow-up email that I sent to Mr. William Holt, who's his engineer, is that I found there was still a couple of revisions needed on the plans, which I'm told I will receive by the beginning of next week at the latest. And also, again, Mr. Bussing personally came into the office and told me that all the on-the-ground things, the missing signs, et cetera, that those issues had all been taken care of, removing the straw wattles from the replication area, as well as, and also finishing removal of the erosion control. So at this point in time, I'm prepared to offer the commission a recommendation that the commission considers issuing a partial certificate of compliance with the ongoing conditions that I listed in the original memo, contingent upon a field inspection to verify the needed site tasks have been completed. I forgot the word completed in there. And then receipt and approval of the revised plans, 2 sets within 10 days. So that's what I'm offering at this point in time, should the commission wish to consider the issuance of a partial certificate of compliance. There's a closing coming up, so he moved quite speedily to address all the items.
There's a closing coming up, well, that's good.
And this is only for this lot that has the closest dwelling constructed on it. The configuration of the lots, the wetlands replication area is actually on the other lot where the residence has not been built yet.
Right.
But this actually gave us kind of a checks and balance, because I then ended up to confirming information, the actual square footages of the wetlands disturbance, and was able to validate and verify through the engineers attesting by their stamp that the replication area did in fact result in the desired replication square footage. And you can see in the picture, it's actually taken very well. In fact, the sedges out there, it's really kind of funny. You look at it, all of a sudden you see all this green there, and it's like the sedges just really took off in that area. So they find it apparently quite hospitable, and we got rid of a dam out there, a big earthen berm that was blocking the flow of water through the wetlands. So
Yeah, looks better than when we were looking at it. Trash is all gone.
oh yeah, a little bit of scattered trash is gone, but I mean the biggest thing was that earth removal,
berm,
was getting
yeah.
that big berm out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that should also assist the neighboring abutting property owner who had experienced some flooding water issues, because I'm
That
sure
was the
that was holding back.
Property owner this way, if
The-
I remember right.
Miss Lindstad?
Yeah, she was right at the end there.
What's the name of that street there?
Leslie Road comes
Is
on.
it Leslie?
Well, she's off Leslie Road.
Right.
Together with the property. Lundstedt.
Okay.
Lundstedt.
So what happened to all those cars?
Oh, there weren't any cars in there.
No, not in there, but on
No,
the
there weren't any
road.
cars on this property.
Oh, there were some.
There were some
there
pieces.
Car
Yeah.
pieces.
There's some pieces, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's bigger ones over on the
Oh.
Village Green site.
Right, but they were from the access from the way down.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a fender here. and-
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there was
We
a
had a
fender and a
big debate
hood,
on
I
what the
think.
car
and-
was.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think there's actually, wasn't this the one that also had like an oil?
Tank.
An oil tank or something on it too, I think?
Gas tank.
Yeah, but it was, this had less scattered metal debris than the other ones I've recently been overseeing cleanup on, so.
Well, unless anyone has any questions or comments, I don't have any problem with going along with Brent's recommendation. I think that busing has worked well with us. Took him a while to get himself,
Here.
Yeah.
in the harness on it, but once he did, it seems like the work has been very good.
Yep,
Very
good.
responsive.
He's been very, very attentive
Yep.
to his
Yeah,
site.
and it looks nice. Looks like a well-constructed road, the landscaping is good, the growth is good, everything's good.
Daughter gonna live in one of these houses?
I don't think so. I think she's just part of his business.
Yeah, his daughter was just the owner of record for
Right.
whatever reason.
He's actually kind of active these days. He's building another house over on Scotland Road that I drive by a lot.
Oh.
A big house. So in that case, I think I need a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance on the conditions stated by Brent.
So move.
And second by Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all against? And the motion carries. Good. Okay, that completes the specific items on the agenda, leaving status reports, permits, and enforcement. Brent heaves a big sigh. What's that? You could sit in front of them. One for me. They're really quite good. Really good? They're extremely good. I'm not usually a cupcake guy. Cupcake guy. Those will make you love cupcakes.
Okay, speaking of a lot of debris on parcels,
That's not a good start.
this request is from the new owner-builder of 156 Leslie Road, which is down near the old mink farm. You'll remember this site. This had a lot of barrels. Oh, yes. See, I even knew you'd get a kick out of seeing
Oh, yeah.
the barrels in the old mink cages and everything. He took out at least 2 trailers of metal that he took to the scrap metal yard and at least got some money for. But it took him a while. The request is, Dear Commission, purpose of this letter is twofold. First, I am seeking authorization to restore a more natural contour, the area along the right edge of the existing driveway between the culverts and the west end of the future house. This would include a small edge of the 1,350-foot restoration area, period. This could simply be done by pulling down the humped-up areas and filling the cut bank slopes and depressions, period. Some clean fill may have to be added, period. Slope areas created would be reseeded and/or vegetation replanted as required. The result would be a greatly improved appearance, a more gradual slope, and a natural appearing landscape, period. Second, I am asking the Commission to waive the requirement for the split rail fencing along both sides of the driveway and make that fencing optional, period. Respectfully, Mike Kovlichuk, 250 Main Street, Raleigh, Mass. So just to try and translate a little bit for the Commission here. As you come in the driveway, in pink, I've highlighted the areas that have been restored and replanted as additional no-cut, no-disturbance compensation for the roadway and culvert, driveway, excuse me, let me call it a driveway, for the driveway and culvert improvements, as well as there was a little disturbance of BVW for the outlet end of the culverts, and so the highlighted hatched, cross-hatched green area is the wetlands replication. Those have been done. Those have been planted. I haven't gotten the reports on it, but I think I've got the pictures on the other side. You can see the areas they've been done. So as you go further up the road, because there was apparently gravel extraction done in here and a lot of grading and shaping, it left these hummocks and these mounds, and then this cut, you'll see the 100-foot elevation and how that spreads back away from the driveway here. There's a very severe slope there. In fact, whatever the coefficient is of loose gravel,
30 degrees.
retaining the slope, that's what it is. So he would like to feather that out. Some of it is in our 100-foot buffer zone, but some of it is also outside of our jurisdiction. But in my professional judgment and reasonable estimation, it's a very reasonable request that can be done. There's really a significant lack of ground cover
around there. There's not a lot of sapling or herbaceous or shrub growth. So this disturbance and his offer to do some replanting or whatever there, I don't think will end up being a negative, to the environment. And I think anybody wanting to buy the property would want to do this anyway, because just looking at the forested terrain there and then having this severe cut and slope next to the driveway, I'm sure they'd be coming before us to try and resolve it anyway. So before I go on to any of his, he actually added another request. Before I go on to the other requests, any thoughts or concerns?
So this house was never built? Is that like that?
Well, no, I've just crossed that off because
Oh,
that's
it's
the
not
other lot.
relevant?
That's under development also right
Yeah.
now.
Has
I've
this been
actually
built?
got two. No, it's being built.
It's being built.
It's like
Okay.
both the two sites. Ken Murphy bought that one,
Okay.
who's been before us before
Mhm.
with some proposals.
I don't have any problems with it. If you don't have any problems.
No, it seems to me it's an improvement environmentally.
I mean, basically,
Less
it's an
grade.
eroding gravel slope at this
Right.
point in time that isn't really vegetated at all. so-
It isn't going to vegetate as
Right.
things stand. so-
And the little hummocks that he wants to pull down are just mounded dirt that was left placed, again, right along the driveway corridor, so it's not like he's going way into the buffer zone and a lot of disturbance.
Right.
And he really just wants to bring them down so that it matches with the
Yeah.
terrain around it. Most of the mounds aren't any bigger than like two of those chairs in terms of square
So it's an
footage.
opportunity just to vegetate it and stabilize it. And I'm not opposed to that.
No.
Okay.
No.
So the second request that he actually laid out in his letter has to do with the fence. And again, because of the lack of a shrub sapling layer, the commission had imposed the criteria of along here where this culverted crossing is, had required post and rail fence on either side. This is where the wetlands comes up really close
Yeah.
to the driveway. He will, I just met with him on site yesterday to, actually go over the exact areas and talk about what was happening. He has no problem putting in posts with the no cut, no disturbance sign. He would just like to not be obligated to the post and rail fence. Although if his client wants it, he might put it in anyway if he finds a buyer for the property. But at this point in time, he certainly will put the posts in at our normal requirement of approximately 25 to 30 foot spacing. So there is signage in posts that would say no cut, no disturb, which is kind of our bare minimum requirement.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, I don't remember why we thought post and rail.
Well, again, because there was no shrub sapling layer
Yeah.
and that it would very well define that driveway corridor where the wetlands are on either side of it. It's just one of those situations where we speculated that someone might want to start chopping down and taking out what little bit of shrub sapling layer there was, although.
I don't really see that being too big a risk. I mean, the dwelling's way back here. It's not like this is
No, not
delineating a
front yard
backyard
where
from
you look at,
somebody's wetland, which is where we always have problems and where fences might work better.
Yeah, and the posts will still define that driveway
Right.
corridor and tell somebody that that's restricted area on either
Right.
side, so.
And I can't really think of what activities they'd want to engage in there anyway. Most likely, it doesn't seem like a high-risk situation. So I don't have any problem with it. Anybody else? No need.
So
Okay.
there was, and he verbally conveyed to me another request, and that is for the ability to reposition his well. He actually did, I couldn't get everything in here, but out here is actually where the well was proposed, whatever the 100 foot, more than 100 feet away from where the proposed septic system is.
Mhm.
They actually drilled out there and he didn't get yield. So he asked if he could have the ability to possibly position the well down here. I guess wherever Mr. Murphy drilled his well, somewhere in this area, I don't exactly know where, he did get water.
Yep.
So he believes he will hopefully
And he still thinks he has
Compete
the-
for water.
well, or at least get some yield. I guess he didn't get any yield out here,
And
so.
then neither of them will have enough water.
Right, right.
I'm sure
Be a
Mr.
nice
Murphy's
drawdown.
thrilled to hear that. And he
So-
thinks he's still got the setback that he needs for that?
Yeah, he needs to be 100 feet away from this septic
this
system,
one.
100 feet away from that one, and he may have to be 100 feet from an abandoned one that was along the frontage up there, which he
Okay.
definitely would be, but it would put him somewhere around in this area here, and
Yeah, I mean, I don't
We-
think it matters.
you know, as you can see from Mr. Bussing's property on Havel Street, we really don't have a problem if they want to position a well next to their driveway and it happens to be in the buffer zone, that it doesn't provide, it would already be within the limit of work, so it's not like there's an
Yeah,
additional
right.
clearing or anything like that.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking, so, yeah, I mean, that seems, we only approved it with the well where it was, because that's where they.
Because that's where they
That's where
proposed
the
it to be.
engineer proposed it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and we probably should have had a hydrogeologist, but anyway.
Okay.
Don't
So
drill.
these are all sort of, this is just an informal
Yes.
approach to you, so we don't need.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I'll respond to him with a memo
Okay.
saying that, you know, the commission had no concerns or anything, the only thing, and of course, that way we'll keep track of our not requiring the post and rail fence when it comes time for a certificate of compliance. That's really the only thing we need to
Right.
be aware of. So.
What's the story with this debris? What's the story with that debris?
Well, when we had the notice of intent for this site, we had those barrels checked out to make sure they hadn't transported something noxious, but it turns out they were the barrels that the Buds had used to go down to the Gloucester fish processing places and bring back fish curry to feed to the mink.
What a business.
That must have been smelly.
Minks themselves
Yes.
were said to be quite smelly. So,
Fish
Yeah,
curry.
mink oil, I
Fish
heard.
curry is
Holding mink oil.
when was this last a mink farm? I know I must have asked this.
I don't know.
Too many, long time?
Long before I was.
20, 30 years ago?
More than 20, I think. Probably more like 30
There was a
years.
woman who lived there by the name of Bud who taught it.
Is that the
Pine
same
Grove,
bud?
I think so. But my wife
Wasn't
used to
sure.
teach there. Lolita or something like that.
A letter.
That's a Lolita. I like Lolita.
Probably, a mink farm left in Essex County, I'll bet.
Probably not. This is sort of an update of the commission, not necessarily a request, but actually, yeah, sure. This is part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan. This is for what was
Just for
called
the,
the
for the
Village
record,
Green.
this is Rowley Village Green,
6379
6379
Main
Main
Street.
Street.
This is, and yes, street is misspelled, but that was Apple Associates. So, this project has started off, but because they do not have their EPA stormwater pollution prevention plan permit issued yet, they can't engage in any soil disturbance. So they have started, they did talk to the EPA stormwater office and found they could cut trees. They were required by the planning board to do supplemental plannings to beef up the buffer to the houses here on Merrifield Street,
Right.
whose backyards abut the project.
There were some rusted vehicles on there. They did, or removal is underway. What ones the skidder could pick up, basically 3 vehicles. We've gotten at least 2 anyway. They made a request because our orders of conditions all have a standard condition in there that require approval from the commission if they wish to work beyond November 1st to March 15th. The reason for that is to make sure that whatever the ground conditions are and whatever they're using for erosion control, that they can still properly control and stabilize the site and manage their earth disturbance without getting into issues. Especially if there was wetlands replication work or crossing work, you definitely want to make sure that they haven't gotten into a situation where they're going to be dealing with organic and high groundwater soils, and they won't be able to manage their equipment or do the work that they want to accomplish in an effective manner due to weather conditions. So we kind of have this standard boilerplate check-in for when we get to this time of year to make sure that they can work appropriately. So this is also just letting you folks know that this project is underway, because it is going to be a rather sizable project, although it's pretty much screened by most of the houses up here. But just to reacquaint the commission, there was an eroded culvert discharge over in here. That work, I think, is going to be getting underway tomorrow, restoring that. And Thursday, they hired Mike DeRosa to do the Japanese knotweed control, because there's a substantial infestation of Japanese knotweed just off of the driveway entrance, and that actually we found out when they surveyed it extended way into the wetlands and wasn't just concentrated up by the Woods Road where contaminated fill, contaminated by the fact that it must have had knotweed seed was deposited. So, as long as the commission doesn't have any concerns, I was going to give them the okay once they get their SWEP permit to go ahead. They've got all the erosion control in. Everything's been put in appropriately. And so
What are they using? What are they using? Silt fence or compost?
Silt fence with hay bales, but they may have to supplement that because the stormwater regs changed in January, that if you don't have a 50-foot vegetated buffer, you have to provide additional erosion controls to accomplish that a 50-foot undisturbed vegetated buffer will accomplish, which they're working on.
Okay.
I'm actually curious to see what it ends up being.
Compost sock or something.
Possibly. That apparently recently changed. Water filtration plant. The directional drilling underneath the Mill River, that's been accomplished. The 2 instances of frack out appear from visual examination to have been appropriately dealt with. Our requirements to have vacuum trucks there with hoses and vacuum truck on either side and all that stuff appeared to have been a very good precautionary measure, because they were able to instantly deal with the situation when it arose and contain it to very small areas. Now there is an issue on the Boxford Road side where well number 3 is in our 2 vernal pools, and they have to construct a pipeline transmission line, a corridor, going down and meeting up with the end of this plastic, for want of a better term, or composite pipe that's been put underneath the Mill River. They are having problems dewatering. Dewatering means when you dig a hole into the ground and you reach groundwater, it's now that you opened up a hole, you have a low-pressure area that the groundwater is attracted to and immediately flows to and fills. That's kind of a criteria that you would expect to find in a well field and in a gravel
Yeah,
sand
let me
pit
think.
with high
Is it high?
permeable soils.
Lots of gravel?
So what
Lots
they,
of water.
Yeah.
so I realize these
Lots of
pictures
trouble.
aren't the most descriptive in the world, but they did not build or put in place a dewatering basin per se. They started just pumping into the perimeter silt fence and straw wattles.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, and it worked exactly how you anticipated that it worked. Because
Bye-bye.
what happened was, first off, I said, where's your dewatering basin? And they said, oh, just squirting it in there. Well, it wouldn't contain the volume, not to mention they mucked it all up. So then, I told them, you've got to put in place a dewatering basin and pump into that, get stuff to settle, because they had a high volume of water, because they said, well, we then need to send the water outside the limit of work. And I said, well, you can only send clean water outside the limit of work. So they constructed a dewatering basin in a manner that I had never seen one constructed before. They put a tarp down, an impermeable tarp, and put silt fence around it and made a corral of hay bales. Well, where the silt fence came around, they didn't overlap the ends of the silt fence. They just brought the two ends of the silt fence together with wooden stakes and put a hay bale there. So what you're looking at is a photograph of where the silty water in the now impermeable dewatering basin was hemorrhaging out the side, going and hitting the perimeter erosion control, and then exiting the limit of work, whereupon I shut them down. So they then decided,
This is Weston Sampson?
no, this is
Contractor.
the pipe laying contractor. So then they said, well, okay, we'll go further down the corridor where the pipe is gonna go that we haven't gotten to yet. We'll pump the water down there.
Isn't Weston Sampson watching this now?
Yeah, they are, but Weston and Sampson guy told, when I first said, didn't you tell them to put in a dewatering basin? Why am I here telling them they have to do that? He goes, I did, but I was overruled, so I didn't get into how he could be overruled. Yeah, don't ask me, I don't know. So anyway,
Holy
so here's the corridor that's going to become the pipeline transmission
Yeah.
line, filled with water.
That's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water, and this picture, although it doesn't show it really well, the fact that you can see the gravel and stuff down in the bottom here actually is demonstrating that this is clear water coming in there.
No, yeah, I see.
So after they bedded their sumps in gravel, what they got was clear water. So I gave them permission to then discharge that clear water
Out into the.
over the limit of work
Yeah.
into a sediment silt bag over in the disturbed old area of pits and mounds of this old gravel pit, not near a vernal pool, not near any freshwater wetlands. And so they're gonna try that, because they filled the whole corridor there with water, and they were still pumping water.
It's really a lot of water.
It's got a lot of water, yeah.
Good thing we haven't had much rain.
Siltation doesn't seem to be the problem.
That's very true.
Really, I mean,
No, they get it, when they do the first digging, it's stirred up and it produces dirt and stuff then.
right,
But the whole thing,
you're using a filter bag for the discharge, is what you're saying.
yes.
Okay.
What I tried to do at first, but again, because I don't believe they ever I believe they shot themselves in the foot. They missed, they silted up that whole area where they should have had their dewatering basin. They had a stump there, they never took the stump out, a big, huge pine stump, at least as big as this table. So they lost this area where they could have constructed and had an actual functioning dewatering basin. But apparently the problem is, they never anticipated the volume of water they had to deal with.
Right.
And so it wouldn't have accommodated it. And I don't know why they haven't done something like bring in, frac tanks and do that, because apparently the volume is just overwhelming anything they use here. But
That'll overwhelm the frac tank too.
Yes.
it
but
might,
at
but
least
I
that
will let them.
Storage
dis-
areas.
I will let them discharge clarified water
Mm.
over the limit of work. I told them that the parameter is that silt-laden turbid water cannot go over the limit of work, the perimeter control. It's the same thing we did at Batchelder Stream, it's the same thing we did
Yeah.
at the Dodge Road Bridge crossing. We allowed the sediment sack to be put over the limit of work out in buffer zone because it was just discharging clear water. And it just acted as kind of
And it was in the settling tank.
it acted as kind of a final stage,
You just have to clean that tank up.
There's different ways of doing it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a number of ways to treat the final discharge.
Yeah,
I mean,
But the
I've
problem
seen-
is-
I've seen half-pipe
But-
flumes built
yeah.
and they use flocculent logs in them.
Yeah.
And that takes care of it right away.
They do not seem to know
How
how
to
to
do that.
dewatering.
Okay, right. And they're not about to bring in a subcontractor who specializes in that, apparently.
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
They're saying the pipe company doesn't know how to do it.
it apparently so. I mean,
but Weston and Sampson
Unfortunately, I
should
don't-
be able to give them
They're the prime of
ample. Yeah, right. They're doing the oversight, plus they have the expertise to be able to do something like that. I can't believe that they don't.
right.
Or at least
Well, they're
to
not gonna design
understand.
it. I mean,
No.
they're gonna ask the contractor to come up with something and they'll review it.
Yes, but at least that would be better than this.
Well, again, all I can do
Well, they
is,
must have approved the first attempt.
Yeah,
I
somebody
think-
must have approved it.
Yeah.
If he was, well, Weston and Sampson was overruled.
that was what he said
The,
to me.
the,
That is
the
what he said to me.
oversight?
Here again, I don't know. I mean, the unfortunate thing is I can't be out there all the time,
Yeah.
and I rely upon these guys to give me a heads up, when there's something I can go check. So the only thing I can do is go out there, and if I see turbid water going beyond the limit of work, I'm gonna shut them down again. That's the only way because I can't design anything for them. I don't have the expertise, nor even should I be doing that.
Exactly.
No.
I'm just supposed to be like the referee kind of guy,
Yeah.
not call the play.
Or the cop. You're the cop. You make sure the laws are obeyed.
Right. Well, but I also haven't had
No, but
if I had the training, I could certainly suggest a more effective way to clarify this volume of water. I mean, I sort of know that what they're doing isn't, doesn't look to me like it's going to be necessarily that effective, but. So, but that's where it stands.
Well, nobody said it was going to be easy out there. Okay. Well, we aren't getting any pushback from them at all, as far as I'm hearing.
I'm sorry?
We aren't getting any pushback from them about being shut down when they're outside the.
Well, no, I mean, that was just a little,
I realize.
it wasn't an actual cease or desist or whatever. I just told them, I said,
Stop it
you're
till you
turning
fix
off
it."
the pumps.
Yeah.
I said, there's turbid sediment-laden water that is
Right.
leaving the perimeter erosion control, the limit of work. That can't happen, you gotta fix it.
Right.
And what's the excavation for? Is it for the pipeline?
Put the pipe in.
Okay.
And it has to be, they say it has to be a dry hole
Oh, sure
because
it
it's
does.
sanitary grade pipe, so they can't have
How
anything.
deep is this one, this trench?
Yeah, well, I don't honestly know because I've never ever seen a clean hole.
When it wasn't full of water.
They can't get water out of it.
The water's coming in faster.
So you didn't ask or anything like that?
Well, whatever
They're
they've
gonna-
done
He-
isn't necessarily.
He told me,
anymore.
he told me something, because, what was it he told me today?
How could he possibly even keep a hole open like that without,
Well,
sheet piling or
they have
some
to-
sort of a trench
Well,
That
trench
pipe-
box.
box?
I think the pipe has to be down at least 48 to
Yeah, I
50
would think it's
inches, right?
pretty
Yeah.
deep,
Yeah.
Well, to the water table.
4
So-
feet minimum.
So,
well below.
and
the
it
line.
appears that the groundwater is within 18
Yeah,
inches
it's right at the
of the
surface.
surface.
So figure out the volumes there.
Well, it's our well field,
It's
so
freaking
it's whatever the
huge.
well is pumping.
Freaking huge. That's
Well,
all
once
you
they get it
that's all
under
you need.
control, though, I mean, it should go
That's
pretty
smart.
quickly that they can install the pipe and that'll be the end of it.
If they can ever get the water out.
Yeah, but they have to get it under control first.
Right.
As Kurt just said, they're just real lucky to get a rain.
On top of my
It's
crazy.
because we have in like your average November rainstorm that we get almost every year, they need a lot more trouble.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of extra water. Yeah.
So anyway, that's just an update that there's,
Okay.
I'm having to go out there more often to
Yep.
oversee that.
Well, I think you need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Just to check in with the commission in regards to, we're now moving to 870 Haverhill Street, which is the Woodside condominiums. You may recall that there was a project there where they installed foundation drainage, as well as, I think also did something to upgrade their roof and their roof runoff.
Yes.
And it had an issued order of conditions because they installed subsurface outlets that took this groundwater collection, drainage, and roof runoff, which is relatively clean, and moved it down right into the 25-foot no cut, no disturb on one of the outlets, and the other one was pretty close proximity, but not actually in the no cut, 25-foot no cut, no disturbance zone. They completed the project, and I thought for sure I would be hearing from them because I thought they were just waiting for the grass to grow and everything. And instead, I've heard absolutely nothing. The file number signed disappeared. And I know pretty sure that they should have been sending in monitoring reports, as you can see the third line down there. And I hadn't received any, reports about whether they'd actually completed, but I figured they must have, because the growing season, this was a pretty good growing season for getting grass and stuff, so this is the second notice of non-compliance that they've been issued. The other one was approximately a year ago, when they decided to change things and not
Yes,
let us know.
When they moved the outlets around.
So-
Yep.
So I'm just kinda FYI, letting you know, I guess we'll just have to touch base and see whether they ever get in contact with me and we ever resolve this. But they should be applying for a certificate of compliance is what they should be doing, I think. And I should be inspecting and letting the erosion control be taken
Well,
out.
and they should send you a report,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least some report.
I find this so odd that all these things are happening right on Haverhill Street. All in plain sight.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, this has kind of been on one of my list of things to do, and I just finally said, geez, it's gonna be 2013 before I get to it, because we've got all this other
Well, that's
stuff going
cool.
on, so.
These people are,
Okay. So unless you think any differently, I'll just
Port
wait.
Property Services LLC, they probably manage a lot of properties. And
Well, but I also sent it to, they used, I think it was Alliance Engineering, so I copied it to all the people that I was originally in contact with, from their landscape contractor who did the work, to the engineering firm that did the design and permitting before us, as well as sending it to this Port Property Services, who's supposedly the owner. So I guess that's just kind of an FYI. Return to that next meeting, hopefully, with either good news or bad news. 27 Central Street. Stream restoration to Cook,
Oh, yes.
Moynihan,
And
and
the guy who
the other guy
took
who
off.
took off left town that Judy predicted, Mr. Stone. Yeah.
Mr. Stone.
No.
So Mr. Stone is no longer a Raleigh resident.
no longer a tenant.
Nicholson.
Nicholson, Stone Nicholson, that's his name.
That's right.
He could still live in Raleigh, but he doesn't live there.
So anyway, the reason this is before you is because earlier in the year, I had gone down there and we found that they were cutting the grass in our no cut, no disturbance zone.
He said something about his.
And so now a tree has come down.
Oh, yeah.
And if you examine the picture carefully, you'll see right where this dead tree, one of the limbs went down to the bank.
Yep.
That's been cut.
Oh, yeah.
You can also see that's been cut. And if you turn it over, you can get a little better clarity or whatever, and
There.
here's the pile of brush and limbs
The cut,
now,
yeah.
and these are all cut.
Yep, and this one.
So,
You know?
if the commission may remember, this was an enforcement matter, and in fact, we had been contacted
Whose
by
property
Mr.
is that?
Mr. Hurlin.
Is that?
Well, the cutting or whatever appears to have occurred on Cook's property.
Okay.
Mr. Moynihan all along has been extremely responsive and ended up doing most of the handwork. You can see the stream area doesn't look that bad. You know, he got the concrete rubble out of there, he repositioned the stone so it didn't look like somebody was trying to do a stone-lined wall along the bank of the stream. He took the goldfish pond out of there and ate the goldfish or whatever, did whatever with them, and just reseeded and restored the area. Looking for guidance as to what the commission wishes to do in regards to what appears to be some limited cutting of a downed, dead tree in the no-cut, no-disturbance zone on the bank of Box Pasture Brook.
So cutting and then leaving the limbs within 20 feet.
Well, the limbs are all piled over right behind their retaining wall. The limbs are actually piled in where we told them we believed was a maintenance strip
Right.
for access
I
to
was
the
kind of
retaining
thinking
wall of their septic
They
system.
didn't, right.
But where the cut portions of the tree are, those cuts are in what we would normally describe as being our no-cut, no-disturbance zone.
No cut. And the tree fell, right?
The
It
tree
wasn't
fell,
cut.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's rotten, you can see it, just, windstorm just pushed it over.
I don't know. Seems pretty minor to me.
Yeah.
I think you've got better things to spend your efforts on.
Considering the fact that they probably thought they were doing a good thing, even though it says no cut.
Right.
No, there's nothing that says that down
Well,
there. This
they
is, this
knew.
is all the result of enforcement action.
Well, it's a no-cut zone.
Yeah, they
But
knew that.
They're just really just
Repositioning
repositioning some debris. That's really all they're doing.
Yeah. Yep.
No, doesn't seem like too big a deal to me.
At the end?
I don't think we need to do anything unless anybody else feels that we do.
I think enoug's been done there.
Nor is it a particularly large tree, so a lot of
Yeah.
debris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't signed off on this. Maybe I should also mention, we also haven't gotten any reports
On this same property? Yeah.
on this restoration.
We might want to tell them that.
Who was
Reinforce
it?
that.
They hired somebody, right?
Yeah.
Well, they hired Seacamp Environmental to put together the restoration plan.
Yeah.
But then, you remember, Mr. Hurlin
Yes. I do.
advised Ms. Cook, as well as sent a pointed communication to the commission
Yes.
in regards that he felt that they had every ability to manipulate and maintain that area on the banks of the stream, contrary to the commission's
Right.
issued enforcement directive, and that they weren't gonna pay Seacamp any more money to do anything there, which is why Mr. Moynihan ended up
doing the work.
doing everything to get it
Right,
done.
because
Yeah.
as I remember, Mr. Moynihan and Mr. Nicholson agreed to pay for Mr. Seacamp, and Mr. Nicholson was very
Yeah, he was,
emphatic that he was going to do all the work, and he really wanted to get started that afternoon, sort
Yeah,
of.
something.
And then he's since disappeared from the scene, which left Mr. Moynihan probably holding the bag
Yeah.
for both
I'm
payment
not
and
sure
work.
whether Mr. Moynihan, though, paid for Seacamp, though.
I'm trying to remember who paid
I
that. Maybe it was
thought- I
Mr.
thought
Nicholson
Ms.
was
Cook-
supposed to? Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they wanted to, but they also,
Yeah.
Ms. Cook told me they were trying to evict Mr.,
Well, there was that
Nicholson,
too,
so.
yeah. So,
which I'm sure didn't help.
yes, he was just trying to restore the stream so his kids could learn about ecology, fish, ducks,
and
something like
he used
that.
to walk across the street to get to the Pine Grove School as a kid.
Yeah.
So he wanted to restore it to its
Well, anyway.
Pristine
original
state.
beauty.
Yes,
Yeah.
which it hasn't been in for 300-400 years.
It's getting back to a
More or
more
less.
undisturbed area, though, than I think it's been in recent memory. Anyway.
I'm sure that's true. And there have been houses along that stream for a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah, which is why it makes a 90-degree bend behind their house.
All right, well, I think we can let that.
Yep, okay. Just FYI.
Yep.
I've got something I'd like to bring up briefly.
Okay.
I've got 2 trees that I'd like to take down when the ground is hard in January or February. One is a half-deceased elm. It is progressively deceasing, right on the edge of Weathersfield Street in the corner of my driveway, roughly 25 feet high. And the other is at the head of the driveway. It's a ash tree that has grown to a height of about 30 feet or so and can hit the house. And a strong wind, if it goes over, I'd like to remove those 2. If I need, they're both within 100 feet of Batchelder Brook, or if one of them might be outside, but it's in the next 100 feet, so they're jurisdictional, but I think it's consistent with other things we've done. If you want a more formal application, I'd be happy to supply that, but.
I think in general, we haven't required an application for removal of diseased trees.
These are within the maintained portion of your lot, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right at the driveway entrance, right?
One is at the driveway entrance, one is right at the head of the driveway as you go in.
Oh, okay,
into
the
driveway.
other end of the driveway, okay. Still clearly maintained.
Yeah.
Yeah, disturbed area.
Yeah, I'm sure we probably don't have to tell you to not drop them into Batchelder Brook to
Oh,
provide food for the viewers.
they won't reach the brook.
They're not that big.
No. One of them's got electrical wires and cable wires going through it, so
Oh,
it has to be
geez,
done a little
okay.
carefully. But
Yeah, well, that would be.
Yep, no,
It
I
might
think
get
that,
rid of your beavers, though.
I think it's good that we always bring these things up, so that there's no suggestion that we don't follow our own rules. But I think that's well within our customary arrangement on that,
Yep.
that anybody can do that.
Thank you.
Anything else anybody's got? Do I have a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.